Okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon. Whatever it is for you, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schomler. This is Strong Opinion Sports. Today is, actually it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what the date is. This is a show I'm recording earlier. I'm putting it out later during the week. I'll be gone at football training camp, college football training camp. I'll be gone. This is my NFL prediction show for 2019. I'm so excited. Here's how I do it. If you don't know, I go through every single team. I predict their record. I build an argument for why the record will be what it is. I go through the entire NFL schedule, and not on the show, by myself, alone to prepare for the show. I go through all 256 games, and I pick who I think will win every single game. I do it twice, and then at the end, I count up the results. And sometimes the results surprise me. There was a team, the Chiefs, for example, surprised me. I thought, wow, I didn't expect them to win their division. Things like that happen a lot. And so I do my very best to try to be fair and honest and give every team a fair shot and try to be unbiased when I decide what their... look, it's obviously my opinion, but it's what I think their record's going to be and an argument why. It is worth noting that, again, later, this will release later in the week. I'm about to leave on break for college football. And so who knows? Tonight, a player might get injured and destroy one of my predictions. That's how life is. That's how this works. But I'm really excited. And let's jump into it. I want to start with the AFC North. I believe the Cleveland Browns are going to go 10-6 and win their division. It seems like everyone's talking about Super Bowl expectations for the Cleveland Browns. And I think we better slow down and just worry about the Browns making the playoffs first before you talk about the Super Bowl. I think it's kind of silly. But look, I love this team so much. I do. I love Baker Mayfield. I love everything about it. I'm all in for it. I think it's going to be one of the more fun stories of the fall, which is the Cleveland Browns. And, man, I love Baker's attitude. He's scary good. He's got potential to be an elite quarterback. And it's hard to ignore all of the talent on the Browns roster. You got two fantastic wide receivers, Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry. You got, don't forget Antonio Callaway, another wide receiver for the Browns. Nick Chubb at running back, not to mention you're going to get Kareem Hunt back after an 8-game suspension. There's so much talent, and you can't forget the tight end, David Njoku. It's just unbelievable. And that's just the offense. Don't forget on the defensive line, you have Myles Garrett, Olivier Vernon, Sheldon Richardson. Oh my gosh, talent. And then on the back end, you have Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams playing corner. There is a lot of really good players on this Browns team. Talent is not an issue for the Cleveland Browns this year. There are two things that I believe can hold the Cleveland Browns back from making the playoffs if things do not go well. Number one is their offensive line. Almost everybody you hear talk about the Cleveland Browns, myself included, will talk about all their skill players. Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, this guy, that guy. You don't hear a lot of talk about their offensive line because that is the weakness of their team. It's not like a glaring weakness, but if you had to pick one thing, what is the weakest link on this Browns roster? It's their offensive line. And if everybody's doing their job, if Odell Beckham Jr. is wide open and Nick Chubb's running hard, but the offensive line isn't doing their job, all these ball carriers, all these specialists could get very frustrated, and it could go ugly very quickly if the offensive line somehow is horrendously terrible. Now, the other more legitimate concern to me is everybody's attitude in the locker room. It sounds silly, but it matters. This is Freddie Kitchens' first time ever being a head coach in the NFL. And you have a ton of personality in this Browns locker room. Again, the Browns are amazing on paper, but this is not Madden. It's easy on paper to go, wow, look at all that talent, look at all these guys. But my question is, do the Browns have enough emotional maturity to reach their full potential? I know that's not a sexy term. I know that might be annoying for Browns fans. They've heard it a bunch. But, I think the Browns are more than good enough to win their division. I think even make a deep run in the playoffs. They're a really talented football team, but will they get in their own way? A lot of teams are going to try really hard to get in their heads and make them trip up. The Browns are going to play a number of primetime games this year. What that means is games at night, games where instead of a couple 100,000 people watching or a couple million, there's only one football game on, and everybody watching football that night is going to be watching the Browns. All eyeballs, everybody eyes on the Browns. It's going to happen a lot to the Browns this year because they're pretty good. And the Browns all offseason have made a bunch of headlines for their personalities. And we know Odell Beckham Jr.'s reputation. He has a reputation around the NFL for being moody. Teams are going to try to taunt him and get in his head. He's kind of like a hand grenade. If you can pull that pin, he's going to explode all over the place. People are going to be yanking, trying to get at that pin, trying to get in Odell Beckham Jr.'s head all the time. That is the new reality of the Cleveland Browns. Trying to get a reaction, trying to set off OBJ. Now, I believe in the Browns. I do. I think man, I'm one of the people that I really believe in them. But if there is anything you're going to be concerned about, it's the emotional maturity in the locker room. Again, I think the Browns are going to go 10-6. They're going to win their division. I'm really excited for them, but that is the one thing that could slow them down this year. Talent's not the problem. Do they get in their own way with their emotional maturity? 10-6. That's my prediction for the Cleveland Browns. 10-6. Number one, win their division at least in the AFC North. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe, are going to go 9-7. I think they're going to make it into the playoffs via the wild card. They're gonna make it. And I mean, no offense to the Steelers, but they do not have an easy schedule. The Patriots, the Seahawks, the Rams, the Chargers, the Colts, the 49ers are more competitive. Not to mention they play the Ravens twice and the Browns twice. And they lost two big playmakers, Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. I know they were drama. I know they were head cases, but you also can't forget. You can't ignore the talent that left the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. Now, Juju Smith-Schuster has been elevated to the number one wide receiver. I think James Conner's now, I don't think. He is now the guy at running back for the Steelers. And they kept 4 of their 5 offensive linemen last year. So 4 of the 5 starters from the Steelers' offensive line last year were retained with their franchise. That's a good thing. But there is an issue. On one hand, look, the offensive linemen are aging. Everybody's getting older on that Steelers offensive line. But here's the real problem that sticks out to me on the Steelers offensive line. I think they're fine. They're older. They're still able to play at a high level. But they lost their offensive line coach, Mike Munchak. He's fantastic. He went to the Broncos in Denver to be the Broncos offensive line coach. Very weird. Not very often you see a guy move laterally for the same position with another franchise. I don't know, man. They're all aging. They're still good. But keep your eye on the Steelers' offensive line this year. See what happens with them. Now, Big Ben is 37. Big Ben is 37. Joe Hayden is 30. Again, Marquise Pouncey, 30 years old. Alejandro Villanueva is 30 years old. David DeCastro is 29. These are all offensive linemen. Ramon Foster is 33. Everybody on the Steelers roster is getting older. You lost your key talent. Everybody's aging. Now, they have young players. I'm not trying to trash the Steelers alike. They have TJ Watt. They have Terrell Edmonds. But let's be honest about what the Steelers are. Frankly, they have not had the discipline in recent years to beat a team like the Patriots down the road. But they've always had the talent. And now the Steelers don't have the talent either. They don't have the talent they used to have. They're also the same undisciplined Steelers we've seen in years past. I think that the Steelers are going to go 9-7. They're going to barely squeak into the playoffs, but they will lose the division to the Cleveland Browns. They're just not as talented as they've been in the past, and I think it's going to cost them this year. Now, I believe that the Baltimore Ravens are going to go 7-9 this year and just miss the playoffs. Now, I do want to be very clear. There is no offense in the entire NFL I'm more curious to watch this year than the Baltimore Ravens. I think I have an idea what to expect, but I really don't know. I keep hearing all these quotes from all kinds of people related to the Ravens. You've never seen anything like this. We're going to do something crazy and weird and interesting. And my theory is they're just going to run the ball all the time, over and over and over again. That's their new philosophy with the Ravens. We are going to pound the rock. Last year, the Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson ran the ball all over the place. In fact, in his first 7 starts alone, just the first 7, he broke the single-season NFL record by a quarterback for most rushing attempts, again, during a single season. I've never seen an offense quite like it. It's interesting. It's intriguing. One notable thing this offseason is that the Ravens promoted Greg Roman to their offensive coordinator position. His background is in the running game. If you go look back to 2017 when Greg Roman was first hired, he was brought in as an advisor to fix the Ravens' running game. He's kind of a genius and a guru when it comes to running schemes and blocking schemes. And to me, the message is very, very clear. By promoting Greg Roman, the Ravens are saying, we are going to run the ball a ton. I don't know what to expect. It's going to be really fun to watch because I don't think we've ever seen an offense that is going to run the ball as heavily and as much with a quarterback as we're going to see this year from the Baltimore Ravens. Now, here's the problem, though. Offense aside, the Baltimore Ravens lost a bunch of defenders. They lost C.J. Mosley, a linebacker who signed a gigantic contract with the Jets. They lost Darius Smith, who was their sack leader last year. He went to the Packers. And they no longer have Terrell Suggs and Eric Weddle, 2 longtime veteran leaders in the Ravens locker room. Now, one kind of positive spin you can put on it is that the Ravens did sign probably one of the best, if not the best, free safety in the entire NFL, Earl Thomas. But I think it's really unfair for people to expect this to be the Ravens defense of old. This is a different Ravens team. They're going to run the ball more than we've ever seen, and they're not the same defense we've seen in the past from them. Now, they are making attempts to improve their offense, right? They brought in Marquise Hollywood-Brown, a first-round draft pick, a wide receiver from Oklahoma. They brought in Miles Boykin, a wide receiver from Notre Dame. They have 2 tight ends I really like, Mark Andrews and Hayden Hurst. But my opinion on the Ravens this year is that they're going to really struggle if they run into an offense that can put up a bunch of points because they're not going to be able to keep up the same way. If they run into the Browns, for example, Baker Mayfield puts up 45 points throwing the ball over the place. Their defense isn't the same it once was. They're not as good. And if a team is throwing the ball all over the place, they can't keep up because their offense is predicated around running the ball. I think, again, when the Ravens run into a really high-scoring team like the Chiefs or the Browns or the Saints, they're going to really struggle because their offense won't be able to keep up with a high-scoring passing attack like you'll see from other teams like that. So I think, in my opinion, the Ravens are going to go 7-9 and just miss the playoffs. Now, the Bengals. The Bengals make me so sad. I'm predicting that the Bengals are going to go 3-13 this year. Look, I am rooting for the Bengals. I like their new head coach, Zach Taylor. I like how he spells his name. He spells it Z-A-C the same way I do. And he's supposed to be really great with quarterbacks. I'm sure he is. But injuries ruined last year for the Bengals in 2018, and it looks like it's already going to ruin this year for the Bengals. Injuries are just a problem for that. I've never seen a team deal with injuries more. Their number 1 overall pick, Jonah Williams, tore his labrum in OTAs. He's out for the year. As offensive tackle, they were so excited they drafted from Alabama. Done. Their first-round draft pick is out for the year. Then their top wide receiver, A.J. Green's already injured and having problems, missing practices. It's not great. And in the AFC North, in a really tough division with the Browns, the Steelers, the Ravens, you cannot afford to have any kind of problems. You can't have a setback. You just can't afford it. And they're going to be missing a lot of players, it looks like, throughout the year from the Bengals. Now, I really like the Bengals' defensive line. I like Carlos Dunlap. I like Geno Atkins. And there are 3 names I want you to familiarize yourself get familiar with if you're a Bengals fan. There are 3 names I really like. Despite, I think the Bengals are going to have a really bad season. I think they're going to struggle. It's going to be sad. But there are 3 names I want you to listen to and hear and pay attention to because I think they'll be fun to follow this year. Number 1 is John Ross. He's a wide receiver. He's entering his 3rd year in the NFL. And he's from my home. He played college football in my home state of Washington. His rookie year, he was hurt a bunch. And then last year, he was basically in a dark void. You never heard from him. He had like 1 highlight that was amazing in the preseason. That was it. You never saw from him again. But John Ross is an incredible athlete. He ran a 4.22 40-yard dash. He's an explosive athlete, and I believe that Zach Taylor's new offensive scheme is going to find ways to take advantage of his talents. He's an incredible, explosive athlete that's a mismatch for a lot of people. I'm excited to watch how the Bengals use John Ross this year, and if they can get more out of him than he's ever been doing in the past, because he's too athletic and too gifted to not become some kind of threat in the NFL. The two other players to watch are both rushing the quarterback. One is Sam Hubbard. He's entering his second year in the NFL. He had 6 sacks last year as a rookie. He'll be fun to watch. The other name is Carl Lawson. 2 years ago, Carl Lawson had 8.5 sacks as a rookie. Last year in 2018, he tore his ACL, but watch for Carl Lawson and Sam Hubbard to become somewhat of a staple with the Bengals. Can they make an impact off the edge rushing the quarterback? So again, the 3 playmakers, if you're a Bengals fan, your year might suck. I think it's going to be miserable. I'm really sorry. But the 3 things you can look forward to: watch John Ross. Does he get more involved? Is it fun? How does he play? Then watch Sam Hubbard and watch Carl Lawson. I'm excited to watch the Bengals. I think their offense is going to be creative. I don't know how many games they're going to win. I think they're the worst team in their division, but I'm excited to watch their offense and see what kind of creative wrinkles they can come up with. Does Andy Dalton get any better? And those 3 names are names I'm going to follow for the Bengals this year that I'm kind of excited. It's a little storyline on the side I can follow that's going to make the Bengals more fun to watch. So it's not going to be fun. Look, I expect the Bengals to go 3-13. It's going to be ugly. I'm sorry. But I think you're going to have a top 2 pick next year, and then maybe they can rebuild with that. But injuries, you can't have a bad start in this division in the AFC North. It's just not going to happen, and they already have. And it kind of, I hate to say your year is ruined, but you're going to get clobbered by the Steelers and the Ravens and the Browns. So again, in the AFC, I have the Browns going 10-6 and winning the division. I predict the Steelers to go 9-7, get into a wild card spot. The Ravens are going to go 7-9, miss the playoffs, and the Bengals are going to go 3-13. And they're just going to beat each other up quite a bit. All right, I'm going to take a short break. When I return, we're going to talk about the AFC South, the Colts, the Texans, all kinds of fun. My name is Zach Schomler. I will be right back. All right, we are back. Let's now move into the AFC South. I believe the Indianapolis Colts are going to go 11-5 and win their division. Now, in my opinion, the Colts are one of the most complete teams from top to bottom in the entire NFL. But if you're going to talk about the Indianapolis Colts, you got to start with their quarterback, Andrew Luck, and this weird, ambiguous injury he's been having to his lower body, its calf, ankle area. No one really knows kind of what it is. It's been very well hidden. And you got to make a decision. Do you think this injury is a big deal or not? I have a few thoughts. Number one is that, let's say it is a big deal, and he's going to miss a couple games. I think Andrew Luck has a great backup. Jacoby Brissett, he's a fantastic guy. He played in New England for a while. He's a really good backup quarterback. He's more than capable of driving the ship for a little bit in Indianapolis. But I've seen a video of Andrew Luck throwing and running around. I saw it like yesterday before a preseason game. He looks fine. I don't think this is a big deal for Andrew Luck. His mobility might be limited a little bit, but Andrew Luck is not a sprinter. He's a quarterback. He's not asked to run around. He's not asked to run 40-yard dashes. That's not who he is. He can be immobile as a quarterback and still play at a high level. His shoulder's fine. He can throw the ball. And as a guy who plays quarterback, I promise, with a hurt ankle, you can still play the quarterback position. So I really think this injury is not as big a deal as people realize. I think they want to make sure he's healthy, of course. They're taking every precaution. But the ambiguity is, I think, just the way the Colts operate with Andrew Luck. I don't think it's some message of a deeper thing. I think it's Andrew Luck is just, that's how he operates. He doesn't want to make all his injuries super public. Let's now jump into the Colts roster. The Colts roster is fantastic. They have 2 tight ends, Eric Ebron and Jack Doyle, that I love. 2 wide receivers, T.Y. Hilton, and a new free agent, Devin Funchess, who's fantastic. I love their running back, Marlon Mack. And their offensive line, man, for years, the Colts offensive line was absolutely terrible. And that's just not the case anymore. Now they're led by Quentin Nelson, a great guard. I think he was an all-pro guard last year. Their offensive line is just reliable and really talented now. And that's what happens when you draft the way the Colts have done and really invest in your offensive line. I love the way they've built their team. Now, a really good Colts defense last year got even better this offseason. First of all, they have Darius Leonard, who's an incredible, scary, good linebacker. He's a young guy. He's just so talented. But they also added all-pro pass rusher Justin Houston, from the Kansas City Chiefs last year. He had 9 sacks. And, man, they just have a really good defense, and they doubled down on it. In fact, in the NFL draft, they drafted 7 of their 10 guys they drafted were all defenders. I'm really excited. I think the Colts defense gets better and better and better with every day that the Colts sit and just practice. I mean, I'm so excited to watch their defense. And they're just a really complete team from top to bottom. Good running game, good passing game, a great quarterback, a good offensive line, a good defense. There are so many reasons to believe in the Colts this year. And the other thing that you can believe in is their head coach. I'm so enthralled with Frank Reich. They started 1-5 last year and went on to make the playoffs. That doesn't happen. And the locker room really rallied around their young head coach last year. They're I guess not young. He's their newer head coach last year. And it was just awesome, man. I really believe in the Colts. I think they're Super Bowl contenders this year. I think Andrew Luck's little injury is not that big a deal. And I really think that the Colts are going to win their division and maybe even make a run at the Super Bowl. I really believe in the Colts. Again, I think they're going to go 11-5 and be first in the AFC South. A very tough division, and I think the Colts are going to dominate it. Now, the AFC South is so competitive. Again, teams are going to beat each other up a ton in the AFC South. Now, in my opinion, I believe that the Tennessee Titans are going to go 8-8 in the AFC South. Marcus Mariota is the current quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. I like him. He's been fine for years. For the last 4 years, he's been the starting quarterback in Tennessee, but the problem is he hasn't ever played a full season. He always seems to get hurt every single year. And so what the Tennessee Titans did this year is traded for Ryan Tannehill, the former Dolphins starting quarterback. For the last 7 years, Ryan Tannehill was the starting quarterback in Miami. He's now been traded to the Titans, and he will serve as the backup to some degree. I really like this move because between Marcus Mariota, who's often been hurt, and Ryan Tannehill, who's often been hurt, I guess 2 halves make a whole. And I think for the first time in a long time, the Tennessee Titans are going to be able to get good quarterback play for all 16 games throughout the year. Whether it's partially Marcus Mariota and partially Ryan Tannehill, that will be, we'll find that out. But at some point, I expect Ryan Tannehill is going to play because Marcus Mariota is so dangerous with the way he plays. I was watching a video the other day where he's like, it's preseason, and he's diving for 2-point conversions. I'm like, man, I just cringe. Marcus Mariota's play style is going to get him injured. And when that inevitably happens, they have Ryan Tannehill ready to go. I think the Titans have 2 quarterbacks who are able to win to some degree in the NFL. And that's a really, really encouraging thing. Now, I also really like the Titans head coach. I really like Mike Vrabel. And I like what they're doing on defense. They just brought in Cameron Wake, a defensive end. They gave him a 3-year, $23 million contract. And, they also have 2 solid, expensive but solid corners, Malcolm Butler and Logan Ryan. So I really like their defense. I like what they're doing. They have a good roster. They're not as good as the Colts, but they have a solid offensive line who is led by left tackle Taylor Lewan, and 2 good running backs, Deion Lewis and Derrick Henry. So the only thing I think that I really am not a fan of when it comes to the Titans is this receiver Corey Davis. He was once a top 10 pick. He's never really impressed me. I've been waiting for years for him to really pan out, and he just hasn't. But they have some solid players. I like the Titans. The question is, will the Titans have consistent quarterback play? Every year it seems like they have to turn to a backup, and this year when they turn to a backup, they might actually get good quarterback play from Ryan Tannehill. So I don't think Marcus Mariota is going to stay healthy. I'm skeptical. He never does. But here's the other problem. I like what the Titans have. I think even if they get good quarterback play, they're going to run into really good teams. The AFC, their division is so competitive, and their schedule's really, really tough. They're going to play the Colts twice, the Texans twice. They play the Browns, the Falcons, the Broncos, the Chargers. The Buccaneers aren't awful anymore. They play the Saints. They play the Chiefs. And given that schedule, I think 8-8 is a very realistic prediction for the Tennessee Titans. And that's where I project them out. It's 8-8, having an okay year, a tough schedule with probably, hopefully, consistent quarterback play. But they're not a complete enough roster to compete with all those really high-level teams that they're going to play this year. And I think they're going to be 8-8 this year. Now, let's talk about the Houston Texans. I see a problem right away with the Houston Texans schedule. They play a bunch of teams with a lot of depth. They play the Ravens. They play the Colts twice. They play the Titans twice. They play the Broncos, who have a scary good defensive line. They play the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Falcons, the Chargers, the Saints. A bunch of in fact, 11 really tough games that I don't think they can get through. That good defensive line for the Broncos is going to cause nightmares and problems for the Houston Texans. Now, I love the Texans quarterback, Deshaun Watson. He's great. Last year, he threw for 4,162 yards, 26 touchdowns, had over a 68% completion percentage, and then he ran for 500 more yards and 5 touchdowns. But what's impressive about those statistics is he did that all with a bad offensive line. He got sacked 62 times last year, a league high, which is unacceptable. Now, I give the Texans credit, right? They've made an effort to improve their offensive line. They brought in left tackle Matt Khalil in free agency. They also drafted 2 offensive linemen in the first round. They drafted Titus Howard from Alabama State, 23rd overall. And in the second round, they drafted a guy named Max Sharping. So their offensive line, they're working hard to improve their offensive line. And I like some of their weapons. I like DeAndre Hopkins. I like Will Fuller. I like Kiki Kuti. They have some good weapons on offense. And not only that, but I love the front 7 for the Houston Texans. J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, Whitney Merciless. But the reason why I see the Houston Texans missing the playoffs and ending up at 7-9, again, they play so many teams with a bunch of depth. Those 11 games are going to be almost impossible for the Texans to win. They have a bad secondary. That's their weakness. Their offensive line still has a lot to prove. And all those games the Texans are going to play, man, they can win a couple of them maybe, but they're not going to be able to survive all those tough games. Again, the Broncos are the scary good D-line. The Colts twice. The Titans twice. Chargers, the Saints, the Falcons. Bang, over and over and over again. And I don't think the Texans this year have a roster that can sustain the beating they're going to take and the tough schedule that they have, given that they made the playoffs last year. They have a tougher schedule. And I think the Texans are going to go 7-9 and miss the playoffs. Now, the Jaguars. I so badly want to be wrong about the Jacksonville Jaguars. I love their quarterback, Nick Foles. But look, their offensive line is not great. They gave up 54 sacks last year, tied for 3rd worst in the entire NFL last year. And, they basically have the same exact offensive line. To some teams, that's a good thing, right? You lose. You're like, oh, we kept all our offensive linemen. But in the Jaguars' case, that's a bad thing. And I don't know that. I think you're in for a world of hurt. Now, they're going to have Leonard Fournette back full-time. He, missed 8 games last year, 7 with an injury and 1 with a suspension. And they're also bringing back Marquise Lee, a really good wide receiver who tore his ACL early in the preseason last year. But the sad truth is that I don't think Nick Foles is going to be enough to help the Jaguars this year. He's going to give them consistent quarterback play, maybe. We hope that's the thought. But, they lost most of their starters on defense. The problem is, a couple of years ago, the Jaguars defense led their team to the AFC Championship game. And at the time, all the Jaguars needed was a quarterback. They were like, we just need a quarterback. We need consistent quarterback play. If we can just get that, we can go deeper into the playoffs. But things have changed. This is not the same team it once was. They lost a bunch. Again, here are the guys they lost on defense this offseason. Defensive tackle Malik Jackson is now with the Eagles. They lost Deshaun Gibson, free agent to the Texans in their division. And Telvin Smith basically retired out of nowhere. A great linebacker said, hey, I'm done. It's really unclear what's going on, if he's done forever, if he's maybe taking a hiatus. No one really knows. But Telvin Smith is just gone. So that team 2 years ago that made it to the AFC Championship game is no longer. It's a different defense. They have some good players. They have 2 really good DNs, Calais Campbell, Yannick Ngokwe, excuse me, and a good corner, Jalen Smith. But, man, this is not the same defense we once saw years ago in Jacksonville. Again, 2 years ago, they needed a quarterback. That was all they needed. 2 years ago, if they had Nick Foles, maybe they would have made it. But this is a different Jacksonville Jaguars team. Their offensive line is waning. And the AFC South, the division the Jaguars are in, has gotten so much better in the last couple of years. They're going to be challenged a ton. They got to play the Colts twice, the Texans twice, the Titans twice, and they're going to get beat up. And so as much as I love Nick Foles, as much as I would love to be wrong about this, I'm predicting the Jaguars to go 5-11, miss the playoffs, have kind of a rough year because sadly, as much as I love Nick Foles, I don't think he's enough to help the Jaguars make the playoffs this year and help the Jaguars really be competitive in their division because they need more than just a quarterback. Again, a couple of years ago, Nick Foles would have solved the problem, but things have changed since then. And sadly now, Nick Foles is not enough. Again, if you forgot, in the AFC South, the Colts are the best team in my opinion. They're going to go 11-5. And then, there's still going to be a bunch of competition between the couple teams, but they're going to beat each other up. Not enough wins to go around. The Titans are going to go 8-8. The Texans are going to go 7-9, and the Jaguars are going to go 5-11. Guys, my name is Zach Schaumler. I'm going to take a short break. When I return, we will talk about the AFC East. All right, we are back. Let's now talk about the AFC East. New England Patriots. The New England Patriots are scary good, and I know that makes people mad, but that's just the reality, man. I think the New England Patriots have a chance to win the Super Bowl this year. And, I think they're going to go 12-4 and, first in their division and probably be the number one seed in the AFC. And I know that makes a lot of people upset, but I look around. First of all, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick have been in 9 Super Bowls together. They've won 6 of them. And I don't see any evidence that their dominant run is going to end anytime soon. Everyone talks about they're going to fall off a cliff. I just don't see it. Now, first, the offense for the Patriots, they have so much talent. It's terrifying and scary for the rest of the league. They have first-round pick N'Keal Harry at wide receiver. They also have undrafted rookie wide receiver Jacoby Myers. N'Keal Harry's 6'4". Jacoby Myers is 6'2". That's the thing they've been lacking forever is some size at wide receiver. I guess and now they have 2 really good wide receivers. Not to mention, they just got Josh Gordon reinstated, so Josh Gordon is coming back, another really good wide receiver. They also have last year's Super Bowl MVP, Julian Edelman. Yeah, by the way, the Patriots just won the Super Bowl and got better. It's terrifying. As a football fan, I love the sport. It's hard not to appreciate the way they've been able to reload over and over again is so impressive to me. They also have Sony Michel, a great running back. And there's a rumor that Rob Gronkowski, the Hall of Fame tight end, he's going to be a Hall of Fame tight end, is going to come back and join the team midseason. From an offensive standpoint, the Patriots are terrifying. But it's more than just that. Their defense lost 2 important pieces. They lost Brian Flores, left to be the Dolphins head coach. He was the defensive play caller last year for the Patriots. And the Patriots lost Trey Flowers, a really good pass rusher who went to the Lions to play for. He wanted more money, let's be honest. Now, as remarkable as it seems, maybe as hard as that might seem to believe that, they could lose those 2 pieces and get better, it seems like they have. They added Michael Bennett, a defensive end, through a trade, and they drafted a defensive end, Chase Winovich from Michigan, who is just everybody's raving about. Supposedly, he's fantastic and everybody loves him. So they have great defensive backs, great linebackers. They reloaded on the defensive line. They have Kyle Van Noy and Dante Hightower at linebacker. And there are 4 young guys I want to now list. I want you to pay attention to. If you're a Patriots fan and you're going to follow them this year, there are 4 names you should pay attention to. One is Derek Rivers. He's a young defensive end. The other 2 names are Duke Dawson and Jawan Williams. They're both at corner. And Christian Sam at linebacker. I guess these guys are guys who are Patriots type of guys that are expected to kind of grow this year and contribute a little bit on the Patriots defense. I just think, man, it's so scary that the Patriots just won a Super Bowl, and it seems like their roster got better. They added way more offensive weapons. They reloaded on defense, and it's really horrifying for the rest of the league that the Patriots, they just won a Super Bowl, and looks like they're going right back where they came from. My prediction is they're going to go 12-2 or 12-4, number 1 in their division, and probably be the number 1 seed in the AFC. And man, that's just as a football fan, I'm not a Patriots fan at all. As a fan of the sport, it's just hard not to have some reverence for what the Patriots do year in and year out. They are so good. How about the New York Jets? They got a new head coach, Adam Gase. He's now working with second-year quarterback Sam Darnold. To me, the Jets are still a team on the incline. They got better years ahead, and I really think you got to have some patience for them. This is year 1 of Adam Gase. Now, Sam Darnold is on a rookie contract. And while they're building a team and Sam's on his rookie contract, it allows them a window of opportunity where if Sam can get ready quickly enough and they can build enough talent around him, they would have a chance to go make a run at a Super Bowl, kind of the same way that the Philadelphia Eagles did a couple of years ago with Carson Wentz's rookie contract. In fact, the same way that the Rams just did with Jared Goff's rookie contract. Because your quarterback is cheap, you can bring in a lot of talent around him and really support him. And I think in a couple of years, we could see a move like that from the Jets where they make a deep playoff run as they gear up and bring in more and more talent around Sam Darnold, their quarterback. They have some players I like, by the way. They have, Chris Herndon at tight end, Marcus May at safety, Robbie Anderson at wide receiver. I'm hoping Robbie Anderson breaks out this year in Adam Gase's offense. Now, they also added 3 really good players that I think are worth mentioning. They added Kelechi Osemele to the offensive line in a trade with the Raiders. They added running back Le'Veon Bell through free agency, and they signed linebacker C.J. Mosley to the biggest contract a linebacker has ever signed. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler. He's a fantastic linebacker. 2019 is a building year for the Jets. They're trying to get better. They're making some changes, making some moves. And if you look, you see a lot of flashes of promise, I think, and you're going to see that throughout the year. We're like, wow, that's a great player. Oh my gosh, Sam Darnold had a great game. And I don't know that we're going to see it consistently enough for the Jets to make a deep playoff run or even make the playoffs. But eventually down the road, those flashes are going to become consistent and become regular moments for the Jets, I really believe. So this year, I think the Jets are going to go 7-9. They're not going to make the playoffs, but it's going to be a building year that they can build off of and have a lot of hope and a positive year with a lot of upside for the future. So that's the Jets. How about the Buffalo Bills? The Buffalo Bills really, really impressed me this offseason. They made a lot of moves, and what they did is they didn't add a lot of star players, but they did add a lot of starters, and they got a lot of substance, a lot of bang for their buck. They added wide receiver Cole Beasley and John Brown. They added tight end Tyler Kroft. They added a center named Mitch Morse. They added a tackle, Ty Nsekhe. And they added a great return man, Andre Roberts, an all-pro return man from the Jets. I just am so impressed with the value that the Bills were able to add in free agency. Again, not a lot of star players, but a lot of substance, a lot of guys that can contribute regularly every down for the Buffalo Bills. They also drafted defensive tackle Ed Oliver from Houston early in the first round. I love what the Bills have added to their team. I feel like I can't say it enough. I'm just so impressed with what they did. Now, there's this guy they already had named Zay Jones at wide receiver who I'm really excited to watch. Here's the thing. All these moves are great. I love what they did. They added this guy and that guy. They have Tremaine Edmonds, his young linebacker, who's a future star. They have a corner named Tre'Davious White, I think is also probably a future Pro Bowler. But all these names I'm listing, all these players are great. But the truth is, this entire season for the Buffalo Bills is about growth for their quarterback, Josh Allen. The city of Buffalo has kind of decided that Josh Allen is their guy. They're committed to him. He's their franchise quarterback. And the truth is that in many ways, Josh Rosen, the quarterback from the Cardinals, had a better year than Josh Allen. If you remember what happened to Josh Rosen had a little better stats than Josh Allen. And then Josh Rosen got traded away from the Cardinals. They gave up on him already. And so I think it's just interesting to me that some franchises and organizations have very little patience, especially compared to what the Bills have. The Bills are like, Josh Allen's our guy. We're here for him. He threw 10 touchdowns and 12 interceptions last year. He was not amazing. And so the point is this. Josh Allen really hasn't done enough yet for us to be expecting a lot from the Buffalo Bills. He's okay, but he's still growing. He's still learning. He's still developing into the quarterback he's eventually going to be. And so in my estimation, the Buffalo Bills are going to go 6-10 because Josh Allen's just not there yet. He's growing. He's learning. He's becoming a better quarterback. But he's still finding his footing in the NFL. And it's not a bad thing. I think that, the fact that the Bills are patient with Josh Allen's fantastic. You rarely ever see that in the NFL, especially with rookie quarterbacks. But, it's really important that patience is the word for Josh Allen. He's really, really raw. I watched him in college, made a bunch of mistakes, but he's got a giant arm. And if you can hone that, he's fantastic. But the word for the Buffalo Bills this year is patience. They're going to go 6-10. They're going to be fine. He's going to make a lot of ugly mistakes. He's going to have some flashes of good at times and bad at times. But in the next couple of years, I'm so excited to watch this rivalry between the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills grow in this division with two young quarterbacks in the same New York area. And I am so excited to watch the Buffalo Bills this year. Watch as Josh Allen kind of grows and develops into the quarterback he's eventually going to be. But please, for the love of God, give the guy patience. Don't raise your expectations too high. 6-10 is a good number. It's a benchmark he can hit, and that's exactly what I expect from the Buffalo Bills. Now I think the Miami Dolphins are going to go 5-11. The Dolphins are not in great shape. Some people say they're tanking. I think that's ridiculous. I don't know that really happens it doesn't go on in the NFL. But the Dolphins are not super talented. They have a below average offensive line, and that's putting it nicely. Some people believe that their offensive line is probably the worst in the entire NFL. And they're also in the midst of a quarterback battle. They're trying to decide who their quarterback is between Ryan Fitzpatrick and second-year quarterback Josh Rosen. Now, new head coach Brian Flores is coming from the New England Patriots. He was with the Patriots for 15 years. He won 5 Super Bowls. He's an established guy in this league, and he has a 5-year contract. So what that tells me is that the Dolphins understand that fixing this franchise is going to take time, and they have patience, and they're willing to do it. And so that kind of says a lot to me. The Dolphins are in the midst of rebuilding. They're just retooling everything, figuring out their team, and I think the Dolphins fans especially, need to be patient with their franchise. They're going to go like 5-11 this year. I think that's the number I picked. Literally is 5-11, and it's okay. They got a young core of good players. Here's the guys I like on their roster right now. They have defensive back Minka Fitzpatrick, who's fantastic. They drafted Christian Wilkins, a defensive tackle in the first round from Clemson, who's a really good leader that I like. They have a good corner, Xavier Howard. They have Laramie Tunsil, left tackle, I think is a future Pro Bowler. But the Dolphins are rebuilding. Please understand that it's going to take time for them to build their franchise where it needs to be. And just lower your expectations. I like their defense. I think it'll be a bright spot. I like their running back, Kenyon Drake. But I see the Dolphins finishing around 5-11, and that's okay. Give them time. They're rebuilding and restructuring their team. Every team other than the Patriots in the AFC East is going through this process right now where they have a young quarterback, and they're trying to build their franchise where in the next couple of years they can set themselves up to be ready to succeed down the road. All right, guys, my name is Zach Schaumler. I'm going to take a short break. Actually, first, remember, in the AFC East, this is how I see things lining up. I see the Patriots going 12-4, winning their division. The Jets are going to go 7-9, finish probably second. The Bills will go 6-10, and the Dolphins are going to go 5-11. All right, guys, my name is Zach Schaumler. I'm going to take a short break. When I return, we will talk about the AFC West. My name is Zach Schaumler. I will be right back. All right, let's now talk about the AFC West. To me, the Kansas City Chiefs really surprised me. I ran through my process, and at the end of going through every team and kind of figuring out what their record was, the Chiefs narrowly beat out the Chargers for the title in the AFC West. So I think it's going to come down to the final game of the year in Week 17. The Chargers play the Chiefs. It's going to be like a one-game playoff right at the end of the year. But I have the Kansas City Chiefs going 12-4 and just by a margin winning the division. Patrick Mahomes, their quarterback, is incredible. A lot of people talk about Patrick Mahomes and bring up things like, well, now teams have tape on him, so they're going to stop him. Things are going to change. I don't think people understand that no matter what film you have on Patrick Mahomes, his talent level is not something you can strategize to stop. Some people are just incredible athletes and incredible football players. And you can say, we're going to take away this throw or that throw, but he might just make an unbelievable throw because his arm is so much better than everybody else's. He can do things other people can't do. And so having film on Patrick Mahomes is great. You can look at some of his tendencies and little things he does, but you're not going to shut down Patrick Mahomes just because everyone has a year of film on him. If that was the case, everybody who had his film last year around Week 8 would have said, oh, let's change Patrick Mahomes. They were unable to. Patrick Mahomes is really, really talented. It's not something that film having over the summer is going to just suddenly shut off Patrick Mahomes' ability to move the football down the field. Now, I am really fascinated to see what happens with the offensive line this year for the Kansas City Chiefs. They just lost center Mitch Morse. They also got rid of expensive outside linebacker Justin Houston, and they lost safety Eric Berry. Now, they did replace a couple of those guys. They, brought in Frank Clark from Seattle through a trade, and they brought in safety Tyrann Mathieu, cheaper than Eric Berry from the Texans. But they did not replace their center, Mitch Morse, at all, and it's really, really interesting. Now, they do have a top 3 tight end in all of football, Travis Kelce, and they also brought in a new defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo. A guy I like. He's changing their system from a 3-4 to a 4-3. What that means is that they're going to have, instead of using outside linebackers to rush a quarterback, they're going to have 2 down linemen in stances, a more traditional defensive end, a guy like Frank Clark, for example, going after the quarterback. Now, the corners and linebackers for the Kansas City Chiefs are questionable. The Chiefs are going to have to score a lot of points. I'm not a big believer in their defense yet. But I think Patrick Mahomes will make up for any questions they have on defense, and the Chiefs will go 12-4. They're going to be a top 2 seed in the AFC along with the Patriots, and they're going to win the AFC West. Now, the Chargers. The Chargers head coach Anthony Lynn does not get enough credit. Very quietly, he's led the Chargers to 2 fantastic years in a row, and he just doesn't. No one talks about Anthony Lynn. We always talk about Kyle Shanahan and this coach and that coach and, the guy in Sean McVay and all that. But no one ever talks about how great of a head coach Anthony Lynn is turning out to be in LA with the Chargers. Now, statistically, Phillip Rivers was fantastic last year in 2018. He had 4,308 yards, 32 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and a 68% completion percentage. In my opinion, it's time for the Chargers to make a deep playoff push for a Super Bowl. Their defense is scary good. Their defensive line is great. They have Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa. They did also pick up a defensive tackle in the NFL draft in the first round called Jerry Tillery. They have Derwin James at safety, and they have 2 good wide receivers, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. I think it's really easy to forget that the roster last year for the Chargers is the exact same roster that went 12-4. And they got overshadowed because the Chiefs were fantastic, but the Chargers were no slouch last year. And so for some reason get totally overlooked. Now, I predict that this year in 2019, the Chargers are going to go 11-5. They're going to make a wild card spot, but they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to make a bunch of noise. And if they can make it into the playoffs, they have a legitimate shot of making a deep playoff run, especially if they can get their running back, Melvin Gordon, back. I'm just so intrigued with the Chargers. No one seems to really appreciate them or give them the respect they deserve. And they're a really, really good football team. Now, the Broncos. The Broncos, in my opinion, are going to go 9-7. I love the direction that the Broncos are headed in. The new head coach, Vic Fangio, is the former Bears defensive coordinator last year. And he's exactly what the Broncos need. I just think he's a great fit for their franchise. They have a really talented defensive line. They have Von Miller on one side of the defensive line, Bradley Chubb on the other. And, Vic Fangio is going to find a way to use those 2 defensive linemen and get the most out of them. The other thing I really, really like about the Broncos this year is their quarterback situation. They had Joe Flacco, who's 34 years old, and they have a young rookie quarterback, Drew Lock from Missouri, a second-round pick. And, there's just no hurry. They really are doing things the right way with their young quarterback. Joe Flacco is a former Super Bowl MVP. Admittedly, he's not been the same since he won that MVP. But because of Joe Flacco, there's no hurry, no rush for Drew Lock. He can take his time. He can sit. He can learn. And I think Joe Flacco is no slouch. He gives the Broncos their best chance to win right now. I'm really ecstatic with the way they're handling that young quarterback situation. Now, the thing I really also enjoy about the Broncos is that their offensive coordinator is a guy named Rich Gangarello, who's worked with Kyle Shanahan before as the quarterback coach in the 49ers organization. He's a great coach. I've heard a lot of good things about him. And I think he's going to do a lot of good for the Broncos offense in general. Now, one thing you got to pay attention to if you're going to talk about the Broncos is that in the first round of the NFL draft, they picked up Noah Fant, a tight end from Iowa with the 20th overall pick. I think a gigantic steal. Both the tight ends from Iowa are fantastic, and I think he's going to make a big impact next year for their team. Another thing they did is they brought over Mike Munchak, the offensive line coach from the Steelers. You never really see that. It's rare to see a lateral move happen where a coach will leave one team for the exact same position with another team. I don't know if something went wrong for the Steelers, but clearly Mike Munchak really wanted to be in Denver with with the Broncos. That bodes well not just for the culture, but for their offensive line in general, because he's a really fantastic offensive line coach. I love what the Broncos are doing, every facet of it. Their coach is a brilliant defensive mind. They have a lot of talent on the offense. Cortland Sutton's a exciting rookie last year. He's going to probably have a better breakout year this year. Emmanuel Sanders, a receiver, will be back from an Achilles injury. And they have a good running back, Phillip Lindsay. I just really like what they're doing all around the ball. They're building. I think they're going to go 9-7 this year. 9-7 is a good number for the Broncos. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they're going to have a lot of hope, and they're building towards the future. They have some tough games. They play the Broncos, the Colts, the Packers. But I do think that, the game I'm really excited to watch this year with the Broncos is the Browns and the Broncos. I believe the Broncos are going to put a bunch of pressure on Baker Mayfield, the Browns quarterback, and that's going to be really, really intriguing to watch as a football fan. Again, I think the Broncos are going to go 9-7. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they're going to have a hopeful year and do a lot of good stuff. Okay, the Raiders. What do you say about the Raiders? The Raiders are building for the future. They're really not in a position to make a deep playoff run. I think they're going to go 5-11. And it's hard. All the other teams in their division are just so much better than them. The Raiders have some good players, some good reasons to be excited, but they don't have a complete, fully built-out roster yet. They did add multiple starters through the NFL draft. They had 3 first-round draft picks. They brought in Cleveland Farrell, a defensive end from Clemson, the number 4 overall pick. They brought in running back from Alabama, Josh Jacobs, with the number 24 overall pick. And with the 27th overall pick, they brought in Jonathan Abram, a safety from Mississippi State. Again, 3 home runs, in my opinion, in the NFL draft. And then they traded for Antonio Brown, who is, I think the best wide receiver in the entire NFL. Kind of a headache. He's been a lot of drama this offseason already with the Raiders, but, even as much as he is a diva, he's really going to help the Raiders quarterback, Derek Carr. I can't wait to watch that. Now, Derek Carr is, there's this narrative that Derek Carr might not be the quarterback of the future for the Oakland Raiders. I think that's silly. I guess the soon to be the Vegas Raiders. Last year he was sacked 51 times, which is just it's unbelievable. It's so many sacks and really, really terrible. It's an example and a reflection on their bad offensive line. Now, at the time, there were moments where Derek Carr just looked skittish. He was avoiding pressure. He was ducking away. There was a moment where he was sitting in the pocket, totally safe, and he just threw the ball away into the stands. It's like he was afraid of pressure that wasn't really there. And so the Raiders made a move this offseason. They brought in Trent Brown from the Patriots, a left tackle who won the Super Bowl with the Patriots last year. And they're also going to have Colton Miller, the other side tackle, he's a rookie last year. He's going to be a little bit older. He's going to be healthier. He hurt his knee last year. And I just think that you got to give Derek Carr the benefit of the doubt. He's a great quarterback. He's played good in the past. He's got a good coach. He just had a really bad offensive line for that one, a year or two. And it just that really can hurt your confidence. But I think he's getting back. He's got a good coach helping him. And he put up good numbers. In spite of a bad offensive line last year, Derek Carr put up really good numbers. 4,049 yards passing, a 68% completion percentage. So I just, I wouldn't lose your patience quite so soon with Derek Carr. I think the Raiders are going to go 5-11. I'm excited to watch them. But if they can just get it, they have a lot of potential, but they got to get through this period of time. They got to get moved into Vegas. John Gruden has like a 10-year contract. They're not in a position to win right now or make a deep playoff run, but they're building towards it. And that's what I see with the Raiders right now is they have no chance to win a Super Bowl, and that's okay. If you expect that, you're kind of mistaken with the Raiders. But 5-11 is probably a very low estimation of them. They could really surprise a lot of people and win a couple more games because they have a lot of talent. They brought in a lot of new starters. And Antonio Brown is a gigantic playmaker that could do a lot of big stuff for the Raiders down the road. So again, the AFC West this is how I see it shaping out. I see the Chiefs going 12-4, winning the division. The Chargers are going to go 11-5 and make the playoffs with the wild card berth. The Broncos will go 9-5 and miss the playoffs, and the Raiders are going to go 5-11. A conservative guess and estimation when I was looking through it, but when I did the numbers and looked at their schedule, I saw 5 wins on the board. There's one more thing before I go to break. it's really weird. I'm home. My family's home, and I know they can hear me. I never record a podcast like this. It's so bizarre. I'm talking way too fast probably and just kind of nervous. It's weird for me. And they don't care. I don't understand. I want to talk about my brother though. Every single episode on the show, I talk about the way that 3 years ago, my younger brother died. 3 years ago, 2016, my younger brother committed suicide and took his life. And it was really, really terrible. The worst thing I've ever been through in my life. And what I learned in that situation where there were two failures that I wish I could go back and change and fix. One of them was on me. I didn't do a good enough job making sure my brother knew that he was loved and supported. And so I encourage anyone out there, if you're listening, make sure the people in your life know how much you love them and how much you care about them. Tell them you're there for them. If they're having a hard time, say, hey, man, I'm there for you. If you're struggling, you need help, reach out to me. I'll be there for you. I didn't do a good enough job telling my brother I was there for him in times of need. And he never did ask out for help. And that's the other failure is, my brother suffered in silence and never asked for help. He never talked to anybody. And it's really, really sad. So don't do what my brother did. If you're having a hard time, please go get help. The suicide hotline is 1-800-273-8255, 1-800-273-8255. And I encourage you, if you're really having a hard time, reach out to someone and go get help. Please go seek professional help. All right, my name is Zach Schaumler. I'm going to take a short break. When I return, we'll get into the NFC. We'll talk about the NFC West and the LA Rams. My name is Zach Schaumler. I will be right back. All right, we are back. Let's talk about the LA Rams. I believe the LA Rams are going to go 12-4. They're going to win their division, and I think they have a chance to go back to the Super Bowl. They just lost the Super Bowl. And usually when that happens, people give up on a team and say they're going to have a Super Bowl hangover. They're going to really struggle. I don't think that's the case for the Rams this year. I think they're a really good team that has a chance to be back in the Super Bowl and at least a number 2 seed, number 1 seed in the NFC going into the playoffs. They're getting Cooper Kupp back from an injury. Now, the real question mark for me, if you're a Raiders fan, is what is going on with their running back, Todd Gurley? The Rams gave him a huge contract last year, and he kind of fell off a cliff in the playoffs. He just disappeared. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know what went on. But what you got to understand about the Rams is that there are stars all over the place. They have a star head coach, Sean McVay. They have a star quarterback, Jared Goff. Probably the best football player in the entire NFL, Aaron Donald. Corners, Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib. Just guys all over the place that are fantastic football players. And, the other thing about Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib you got to pay attention to is that at the corner position, they have 1 year left on their contract. This is their final year. So they have a gigantic motivating factor pushing them to play their very best they can to try to earn big money contracts coming up. I'm really excited to watch the Rams. And I think they're going to go 12-4. They're going to win the NFC West and have a chance to go back to another Super Bowl. I don't know that they will. I think the Saints are going to probably edge them out for that, but they're right there and going to be really fantastic. A name to watch if you like this. There's a guy named Samson Ebukam who plays for the Rams. I played with him in high school. He's a guy I grew up with, and he then went to my favorite college, Eastern Washington, and played football. He's a great dude. I'm rooting for him. If you see a guy named Samson Ebukam, just give him a little cheer. He's a great guy. Follow him on Instagram, and he's a really, he's my favorite player for the Rams because I grew up with him. I knew him in high school, and it's just a cool little story. I want to share that. So the Rams, I think the Rams are going 12-4 and have a chance to go back to the Super Bowl. I think the Seattle Seahawks are going to go 8-8. The quarterback Russell Wilson got a ton of money, and it really cost him. They got rid of Frank Clark, a really good defensive end, because they just couldn't afford to re-sign him. They didn't want to pay him the money they owed him, and they said, we got Russell Wilson. We're paying Russell Wilson a ton of money. What's interesting about the Seahawks is the way that their offense is built around running the football. At times last year, they brought in even a 6th offensive lineman, an extra offensive lineman to help run the ball and bring extra pressure, bring extra bodies into the box and move the pile. And the 2 running backs they're going to use the most are Rashad Penny and Chris Carson. Tyler Lockett's their number 1 wide receiver. Doug Baldwin's also in the mix. But what I'm really excited to watch with the Seattle Seahawks is the way they use their 2nd-round draft pick, DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf was kind of a sensation around the NFL draft. He's 6'3", ran a 4.33 40 time and he's a great deep threat. In college, he was used a lot, and I believe the Seahawks are going to use him in play action and throw the ball deep to him often and just make the guy stretch and run the field and chuck the ball deep to him. I'm really excited to watch that this year. They do have two great linebackers, Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright. They kind of elevate everybody around them. But the defensive backs and defensive line are the real question marks for the Seattle Seahawks. It's one reason why I think they're gonna go 8-8. They're just not the same team they need to be. They have a lot of weaknesses. They're going to play a lot of teams that are better than them. In spite of a couple good players, isn't really how you make a deep playoff run or do a great job in the NFL. I think the Seahawks are going to go 8-8. They play the Steelers, the Saints, the Browns, the Falcons, the Eagles, the Vikings, not to mention the Rams twice. There's a lot of teams on their schedule that are better than them from top to bottom. And I think that's going to cost the Seahawks a lot. Paying Russell Wilson, they got a great quarterback, but at what cost? And I think 8-8 will be the result this year for the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, the San Francisco 49ers. There's a lot of nice stuff I can say about the 49ers. I like their running backs, Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon, Matt Breida. They have some good receivers, Dante Pettis, Trent Taylor. They drafted a guy named Deebo Samuels, another guy named Jalen Hurd is good. And on paper, the 49ers offensive line is fantastic. They got Joe Staley, Weston Richburg at center. They got Mike McGlinchey at tackle. I like, Richard Sherman's still a stud. There's all kinds of reasons to like them. In fact, I think I'd love to go on about their defensive line. Nick Bosa is a really good defensive lineman they just brought in. They brought in D Ford. Not to mention they have a 2017 number 3 overall pick, Solomon Thomas, a defensive end who's, I guess, I would imagine, angry, got replaced, and everyone says he's eager to prove himself and working really hard. There's a lot of things to be excited to watch if you're a 49ers fan. Quan Alexander and Fred Warner are great linebackers. But I'll be honest, of all I just listed way too much information about things that are fun are going to be enjoyable to watch about the 49ers. But I'm not a big believer in their quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo. I just don't buy it. He played in 3 games last year. He did not impress me. It was not fantastic. And he's been paid a ton of money, but hasn't actually done anything yet. And so, I think the 49ers play a really tough schedule. They play the Saints, the Browns, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Seahawks, and the Rams twice. Not to mention the Packers, the Falcons, and the Buccaneers, who are a solid team. And I'm just not sure that Jimmy Garoppolo is up for the task and really going to be the playmaker that the 49ers need. I just did not see a high-level, consistent level of quarterback play. In those 3 games, I know it's only 3 games, but he was not attentive to detail. He was not doing a great job. I was not impressed at all with him. And I think, there are so many good teams right now in the NFL, and the 49ers are going to suffer because of it. They're just not, they're on the upswing maybe if Jimmy Garoppolo can improve and they can keep building their roster, but they're going to play a lot of really good teams this year. And I think as a result, the 49ers are going to go 6-10 and are just in a position where they're trying to build for the future, because this year, in my opinion, just ain't it, Chief. It's not the year of the 49ers. Let's now talk about the Cardinals' offensive line. The Cardinals' offensive line should be tremendously better this year than they were last year. They added 2 new linemen, guard J.R. Sweezy and right tackle Marcus Gilbert. And you got to understand about last year, basically every single offensive lineman for the Arizona Cardinals last year got injured. A.Q. Shipley, their center, got hurt. Justin Pugh, their guard. DJ Humphries, their left tackle. Everybody was injured. They're all now coming back this year off of injuries. And what I'm excited to watch is this young quarterback, Kyler Murray, and the coach, Cliff Kingsbury. How do they interact and how they work? They're both going to have growing pains this year. They have a bunch of receivers to throw to, Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, Keyshawn Johnson, Andy Isabella, Hakeem Butler. They have a good running back, David Johnson. And they got a really good defensive coordinator. I really like, they advanced Joseph, the former Broncos head coach, who's got valuable experience. Despite the fact that he failed as a head coach, he's got some good experience. They got some key players on defense I like. Chandler Jones, edge rusher, Jordan Hicks, an inside linebacker, Patrick Peterson, who has a 6-game suspension, but he's not terrible. They have Terrell Suggs, 37-year-old linebacker who, still made an impact last year for the Ravens. So there's a chance that all these names I just listed have an opportunity to do some interesting stuff for the Cardinals. But the entire season for the Cardinals revolves around how good is Kyler Murray and how quickly can he be ready to play at a high level in the NFL. I think at some point he's going to be a fantastic quarterback in the NFL. I really like him. I really believe in him. He's not a bum. He's a really good quarterback. But adjusting to the league takes time. So my expectations are really, really low. I think this is a growing year full of like all kinds of growing pains, both for, Kyler Murray, the quarterback, and the head coach, Cliff Kingsbury. So I think the Cardinals are going to go 4-12 this year because I think there's just too many tough opponents the Cardinals are going to play for him to succeed at a high level this year in the NFL. So again, in the NFC West, I see the Rams going 12-4, winning the division. The Seahawks are going to go 8-8. The 49ers are going to go 6-10. And the Cardinals are going to go 4-12. My name is Zach Schaumler. I'm going to take a short break. When I return, we'll talk about the NFC South and have some fun with it. My name is Zach Schaumler. I will be right back. Let's talk about the New Orleans Saints. And the New Orleans Saints are a team with so few weaknesses. I see them going 12-4. They're likely going to be the number one seed in the NFC. They are a fantastic team. There's really only, two things that could stop them. One is injuries. If everybody gets hurt, of course they're not going to succeed. And if suddenly, Drew Brees maybe gets really old and just falls off a cliff, I guess that could be the thing that causes the Saints to struggle. Drew Brees is 40 years old. I guess that's old for a quarterback. But this team is a really, really good NFL football team. They were the NFC Championship last year, and they brought back 18 of their 22 starters. And in fact, the 4 starters they didn't bring back are, guys they didn't bring back because they improved on them. First of all, they brought in a tight end, Jared Cook from the Raiders, who is just fantastic. And they're just better now. They're a better team almost all around. So imagine a team that almost made it to the Super Bowl last year, and the roster got even better. That's what you're dealing with the New Orleans Saints, a team that's out for vengeance. Remember the way they lost in the NFC Championship game last year unfairly on a bad call. I really think that, this year the Saints they're on a mission to get back to the Super Bowl after 2 years in a row losing really crappy fashions in the playoffs. They lost 2 years ago, the Minneapolis Miracle. They lost last year on a just bad pass interference call. And I really think this is the year the Saints are going back to the Super Bowl and have something to prove. They have a really good defensive line. They have Cameron Jordan on one side at defensive end. They also have Marcus Davenport, a second-year defensive lineman they just drafted in the first round of the 2018 NFL Draft. They have defensive tackle. They added defensive tackle Malcolm Brown. So much talent is accumulated on this roster. They also have arguably the best wide receiver in the entire NFL, Michael Thomas, who they signed to a 5-year, $100 million, $61 million guaranteed contract. They have a great running back, Alvin Kamara, a good secondary, good linebackers. The Saints roster is just rich with quality starters. I don't think you're going to play a team all year if you're a team. The Saints have so much depth everywhere. They even have a backup quarterback who comes in the game, Taysom Hill, and plays really well. They felt cheated out of the Super Bowl last year. They're on a mission. The Saints are going to go 12-4 at the very least, maybe even better. They're on a mission to go win the NFC, and they should absolutely be Super Bowl favorites. They're angry. They're better than they've ever been, and they have loaded roster. They are talented all over the board, and I think the Saints are going to go 12-4, win their division, and probably play for the Super Bowl this year. I'm really excited to watch what happens with the New Orleans Saints. Now, the Falcons. The Falcons, in my opinion, are going to go 10-6. They have a chance to challenge the Saints for their division, but really they just aren't as complete a team as the New Orleans Saints are. Their defense is full of question marks. They just have a lot of guys who are like, we don't really know. You're not proven the same way that people on the Saints are. The linebackers for the Falcons are not very good. The defensive backs are not very inspiring. Very confidence-inspiring if you're a Falcons fan. Even though I will acknowledge I like the corner, Desmond Trufant, the young corner with the Falcons. There's also a question, can the Falcons get pressure on opposing quarterbacks? They have a bunch of guys. I'm going to list, Adrian Claiborne came over from the Patriots. They have, he joins Vic Beasley and a former 2017 first-round pick, Tack McKinley, and defensive tackle Grady Jarrett. But all these names are meaningless if they can't get pressure on the quarterback. They've been trying forever. They've really struggled with it. That's kind of really going to determine how well the Falcons defense plays this year. Can they get pressure on the quarterback and alleviate some pressure off of their secondary, who, again, has a bunch of no-name guys and is not super talented? Now, in 2018, the Falcons were decimated by injuries. It was awful. I've never seen a team get destroyed the same way the Falcons did. And in spite of that, their quarterback, Matt Ryan, had a fantastic year. 4,924 yards passing, 35 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a 69.4% completion percentage. And nobody noticed it because, again, the Falcons were chock full of injuries. They went 7-9, but Matt Ryan was just unreal and had quietly an incredible year. And this year for the Falcons, they have a bunch of really good pass catchers: Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Mohamed Sanu. They have a tight end, Austin Hooper, who's fantastic. A solid running back, Devontae Freeman. But what's really intriguing to me is both a problem and a good thing for the Falcons. The Falcons had 2 first-round draft picks this year in the NFL draft, and they used both of them on offensive linemen. The 14th overall pick, they drafted guard Chris Lindstrom. With the 31st overall pick, they drafted tackle Caleb McGarry. It's believed that both of them are going to play. And while this is great, right, getting 2 first-round draft picks, 2 offensive linemen, building your offensive line for the future is fantastic, having young offensive linemen is also a bit of a liability and could cost them early in the year, especially when they play the Broncos, a team like that's good. They're really, I'm pretty sure they play the Broncos this year. I might be totally wrong. But when they play a team like the Broncos, who has a really good defensive line, they could really struggle because they've got young, inexperienced players all over their offensive line. Now, they do add to a group. Jake Matthews is a left tackle for the Falcons. They have a really good center, Alex Mack. But the issue, again, is rookie offensive linemen are young and can get taken to task by old. Like when they play the Saints, oh my gosh, I feel bad for Matt Ryan because these young linemen are probably just going to get blown up. And I like the move. They brought in 2 offensive. That's what you have to do, right? You have to invest in your future with the offensive line. But playing rookie offensive linemen also has its disadvantages. And I think it's going to cost the Falcons a little bit. I think they're going to go 10-6 and get a wild card spot, but that's it. They don't have enough depth to make a long playoff run. They're an okay team. They're not great, but they have a really great quarterback, Matt Ryan, who deserves a lot more respect around the NFL. Oh, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I am really excited to watch the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. I think they're going to finish with an 8-8 record, but they're going to give the Falcons a run for their money. The Falcons are going to be followed closely behind by the Buccaneers this year. And it's going to be a race for second place in the NFC South. And they're both going to be, I think, fighting for a wild card spot till late in the year. The Buccaneers quarterback, Jameis Winston, needed help. And that's exactly what he got with new head coach Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians has worked with Big Ben Roethlisberger. He's worked with Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Carson Palmer. He is a guy who really, really understands the quarterback position. And I think he can help Jameis Winston really improve in Tampa Bay. He also has a bunch of good weapons in Tampa. They have Mike Evans. Chris Godwin is another receiver. So Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are separate people. They're both really good wide receivers. They have tight ends Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard, both really high-level targets who could get a lot of production in this offense that he runs. And there's a really cool thing I love about Bruce Arians is that both of his coordinators are guys who used to play for him. The offensive coordinator is a guy named Byron Leftwich, who for a long time played quarterback in the NFL. I played with him on Madden. I had his trading card when I was a kid. He played for Bruce Arians as an NFL quarterback. And then the defensive coordinator on the other side of the ball, Todd Bowles, by the way, a former Jets head coach, a guy I like who's got valuable experience in the NFL, played for Bruce Arians in college at the University of Temple or Temple University. And, I just really love what's happening. And I really love this camaraderie and this culture that Bruce Arians has built. He's a great guy who I think has a good atmosphere as a coach that I'd want to be a part of. Now, I really am excited to watch Vita Vea paired with Ndamukong Suh. Vita Vea is their 2018 first-round draft pick 2 years ago. He was a rookie last year. He'll be a second-year player this year. Vita Vea at defensive tackle, and they brought in now Ndamukong Suh at defensive tackle. Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh are going to be a really fun match to watch on the defensive line. Now, here's the problem, right? The Buccaneers have a tough schedule. Their offensive line is subpar. And personally, I don't have a lot of confidence in their defensive backs. But things are changing in Tampa Bay. They are not the horrible placemat they once were. They're going to go 8-8, and I think that would be progress and a hopeful thing. If you're a Tampa Bay fan, 8-8 is not a bad year, especially if Jameis Winston is a bright spot and plays okay. I think that things are looking up for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm excited to watch them this year. Now the Panthers. The Panthers are, in my opinion, are going to go 6-10. People are going to get all mad when I say that. One, I'm concerned about their secondary, right? They play in a really good division. They have some of the 3 best wide receivers in the entire NFL in the NFC South. The Panthers are going to get eaten alive by Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, and Mike Evans. Their secondary, their defensive backs are not good enough to compete in the division they play in. Now, they do have I really love their linebacker, Luke Kuechly, but Luke Kuechly by himself is not enough to carry an entire defense. They need people around him, and the people around him aren't good enough in Carolina. But here's the real big problem. I'm concerned about Panthers quarterback Cam Newton. Now, I will acknowledge, I saw a video of him throwing around the other day. He looked okay. He wasn't terrible. But you understand, Cam Newton is now 30 years old, and he plays a playing style at quarterback that involves running around a bunch and getting hit a lot. And this is now the second time this year, this offseason, it's the second time Cam Newton has hurt his throwing shoulder. I'm really uncomfortable with the injuries Cam Newton's having and the way he plays football. I don't think it's sustainable, and I'm worried that he's going to struggle this year because of his shoulder injury. He had I will acknowledge, Cam Newton had a good completion percentage last year, the best he's ever had. It skyrocketed to above 67%, but that really good completion percentage didn't actually lead to winning games for the Carolina Panthers. And I don't know. My fear is that age and a dangerous play style is catching up to Cam Newton. And I think it's really honest. It's likely we're going to see a backup quarterback play for the Panthers this year, whether it's Kyle Allen or Will Grier. We're going to see. Look, I like what the Panthers have. They have really good playmakers, DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey. But, they don't have as many playmakers as the other teams in their division. And I think all the playmakers for the Panthers, they have 2. That's great. Everybody else in their division is way better and has way more playmakers. The Saints have better players. The Falcons have better players. The Buccaneers have better high-level players that are going to make bigger plays. And I sadly think that's why the Carolina Panthers are going to be 4th in the NFC South and probably going to go 6-10 and just kind of be anonymous this year and not a big deal and not a gigantic polarizing thing. I just think the Panthers are going to struggle and be kind of anonymous and kind of boring and not make a bunch of noise because no one's going to pay attention to a team that goes 6-10. Some more guys. The NFC South, in my opinion, the Saints are going to go 12-4. The Falcons are going to go 10-6. The Buccaneers are going to go 8-8. And the Panthers will go 6-10. I'm not going to take a break. I'm going to go straight into the NFC North. I'll be honest. I'm really tired. I move tomorrow morning. I'm exhausted. I don't even know if this episode's going well. I hope it's enjoyable. I notice I'm not enjoying this at all, which is weird. I love the show, and I just want to get through it today. And I'm excited. I got some Ask Zach questions. I'm stressed. I'm really stressed about moving. And I wonder if I'll even release this. I might just literally make a video saying, hey, I'm done. I take a break. I recorded something. It sucked. Because I don't even know I have no idea if this is good. If you're listening to this and I did in fact record it, please tell me you liked it. Because it doesn't feel like this is going well at all. I believe the Green Bay Packers are going to win the NFC North. And I'm really excited to watch. This is honest. I'm really excited to watch the Green Bay Packers this year. First of all, the Packers added to their defense. They brought in Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith, 2 outside linebackers from free agency that I'm excited to watch. And they drafted a defensive end, Rashawn Gary from Michigan, in the first round. The Packers have made it very clear they want to get after opposing quarterbacks and get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. I like that. They've really upgraded their defense. They got rid of HaHa Clinton Dix at safety and replaced him with Adrian Amos, a safety from the Bears. And, Adrian Amos is a far more reliable safety than HaHa Clinton Dix was. HaHa Clinton Dix loved to take risks, and that often got him in trouble. Sometimes he'd make a big play, but usually it cost him a touchdown or got him burned. And so I'm excited to watch the upgrade that the Packers have made on defense. The Packers also just hired a new head coach, Matt LaFleur, and his job is to revamp the offense. Now, I believe Aaron Rodgers is going to excel in this new scheme, and I'm excited to watch what happens. I really think that, they have Devontae Adams, a really good number one target. They have a really solid running back, Aaron Jones, and I'm excited to watch Jimmy Graham, the tight end for the Packers, who in the former offense never really seemed to get matchups I would have done. I think in the new offense, they're going to create creative mismatches with Jimmy Graham and take advantage of his unique size and ability. And as a football fan, I'm just excited. The Packers are, I know the word exciting is coming up a lot, but the Packers are one of the few teams this year I can't wait to watch because, think about it, Aaron Rodgers with a highly efficient, effective offensive scheme, a solid running game, and finally, a good defense. I think the Packers are going to 11-5. They're going to win their division, and they're going to give the Saints and the Rams the run for their money. And Aaron Rodgers might just be good enough to beat a team like that, even without as good a roster. Aaron Rodgers doesn't need the best roster, but he has support enough. And you never know, could make a run out of Super Bowl. I'm excited to watch the Packers. Right behind the Packers in the NFC North will be the Chicago Bears. The Bears are a really complete team. They returned all 5 of their offensive starters on the offensive line. That's unheard of. You never see a team return the entire offensive line. Just impressive, man. They have solid offensive weapons all around. Taylor Gabriel, Allen Robinson at wide receiver. They have a tight end, Trey Burton, who's really good. But Tariq Cohen is the player I want to focus on. He's the running back for the Bears. He is so underrated. Nobody talks about him. We always talk about all these other players around the league. This guy's explosive, Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey and this and that. No one gives Tariq Cohen love, and I will. He's so, so fantastic. But the Bears did lose their defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, he went to the Broncos to be their head coach. And this is a big loss. Fangio was a defensive mastermind. I think they called him an evil genius in Chicago. No, I really like the new defensive coordinator who's coming into Chicago, Chuck Pagano. He's the former Colts head coach. He's got valuable experience, and I respect him. He was with the Ravens for a long time with really good defenses then. But you can't replace Vic Fangio. This is harsh, but it's true. Without Vic Fangio, the defense simply just got worse. They're just not the same defense they were last year. Still have a ton of talent. Khalil Mack's amazing. They have Kyle Fuller and Eddie Jackson, some big playmakers that play defensive back positions. But the reason why the Bears are number 2 in their division, despite their great roster, a really complete roster, is Mitchell Trubisky, the Bears quarterback. When you put the Packers and the Bears head-to-head, I understand the Packers roster is not as good as the Bears. But Aaron Rodgers, their quarterback, makes up for that roster. And the Packers have a way better quarterback who just makes a difference. Aaron Rodgers is a far better quarterback head-to-head than Mitchell Trubisky, and that's why I think the Bears are going to come up second in their division. They're going to go 10-6. I still think they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to get a wild card spot. But the Packers are going to win the division in the NFC North because they have a better quarterback and they have a good enough roster where the Bears have a better roster, but their quarterback is just simply not going to cut it enough to beat a team like Aaron Rodgers with a lot of help. Now, the Detroit Lions are going to go 8-8 and have a better record than the Minnesota Vikings. Maybe I'm insane. I understand. I could either be too low on the Vikings or way too high on the Detroit Lions. But I really like the direction the Lions are heading in. They have a lot of positive momentum. And, they're entering year 2 with Matt Patricia. They added Trey Flowers, a defensive end from the Patriots. That's a huge get. And the Lions have 2 really good corners, Darius Slay and Quandre Diggs. I don't know. I'm really excited. They have 2 good offensive weapons. There are 2 tight ends I'm really excited to watch. They have Jesse James, a tight end from the Steelers, but the really exciting thing is TJ Hawkinson, the number 8 overall pick, a tight end from Iowa. He is going to shock people this year. Matthew Stafford's a really good quarterback and who doesn't get the respect he deserves, in my opinion. And I think he's going to do a lot of great stuff with this new tight end, TJ Hawkinson. It's like when you get a new toy and you're excited to play with it and excited to do cool stuff with it. Like when you get a new pair of shoes, you can't wait to put on your new pair of shoes and show it off. That is exactly what's going to happen with TJ Hawkinson and the Lions offense. He's going to do wonders for their team, and it's going to be awesome. I like the running backs the Lions have. They brought in C.J. Anderson from the Rams, the guy who He played a lot in the Super Bowl last year for the Rams. They have Kerryon Johnson, a good running back. Now, the Lions don't have as complete a roster as a team like the Bears or even the Packers. But they do have a number of positive players and a lot of positive things going for them. I think they're going to finish 8-8, which normally, I guess, 8-8 is not a great year necessarily. But for a Lions fan, I would hope that 8-8 is something worth celebrating and, beating the Vikings and not being fourth in your division. And a step in the right direction. I think the Lions are building something. I like the culture they're building. I like Matt Patricia. I think they have the right quarterback in place. And they got a really good defensive end, Trey Flowers. I think the Lions are headed in the right direction. And I'm excited to see if it actually pays off. And it does, in fact, continue to trend that direction. Now, the Vikings. I think the Vikings are going to go 7-9. They're going to be fourth in the NFC North. Number one, their offensive line sucks. There's no other way to put it. They made a lot of changes, like, we got rid of this offensive line when we brought in a new guy. But you're just replacing trash with more trash, and I don't see a lot of value there. They have good wide receivers, Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. They have a really good tight end, Kyle Rudolph. He's good at receiving, but he's terrible at run blocking. And the question I have about the Vikings right now is their running back Dalvin Cook any good? He's entering his third year in the NFL. To this point, he's been hurt a lot, and he has had struggling offensive lines in front of him. But it's time to find out, what kind of running back is Dalvin Cook? Is he any good? Is he ready to go? Is he going to succeed? I don't know. And we're going to find out a lot about what kind of running back he is this year. Now, I like Kirk Cousins, but let's be honest about the Vikings quarterback, Kirk Cousins. If the Vikings don't play really great, if their team doesn't play well, he's not good enough to elevate them to win games with a bad roster. And I think what's really going to happen to the Vikings this year is he's going to get a lot of passing yards late in games, and they're going to lose a game by 20 points, and he's going to rack up a bunch of yards at the end, and that's what Kirk Cousins seems to do in his entire career. That's what he's done. Now, I think a defense has enough pieces to succeed in Minnesota. They have Danielle Hunter, one of the best young defensive ends in the game. They have Linval Joseph at nose tackle, Anthony Barr linebacker, two talented defensive backs, Xavier Rhodes and Harrison Smith. But they lost their defensive tackle, Sheldon Richardson, to the Browns, and I think that's going to hurt them a lot. Again, the Vikings have enough to succeed, but they are going to struggle. They're not the same defense they once were. And I don't think the Vikings have the horses to make it to the playoffs. They don't have a good enough quarterback. They don't have a good enough roster. They don't have a built-up enough roster against a team like, when you talk about the Bears versus the Vikings, yeah, they're not really comparable. The Packers, the Bears, the Lions, the competition is too good for the Vikings in the NFC North. I think the wild card spots are going to be really, really, they're going to be gone before anybody can get a chance. The Vikings have no chance to get a wild card spot. So I think the Vikings are going to go 7-9, which is not the worst record in football, but even at 7-9, I think they're going to go be last in their division, fourth in the NFC North. And that's just how things are going to go. Unless someone gets hurt, unless Aaron Rodgers gets hurt or Matthew Stafford gets hurt, I think the Vikings are going to be fourth in their division come the end of next year. Again, in the NFC North, I have the Packers going 11-5, the Bears going 10-6, the Lions going 8-8, and the Vikings going 7-9. I'm going to take a short break. When I return, we'll talk about the NFC East, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Redskins, and go into a couple things I'm going to do. There's a couple things I was going to break into a different podcast. What I'm going to do is just going to end the show after I'm going to finish my predictions, do a couple more things, and then just call the show. I'm tired. I start football tomorrow, and I didn't sleep last night. I literally didn't sleep last night because I was working on this, trying to finish it in time. And I don't think it's ready, and I don't like rushing stuff out, and none of this feels good to me. I don't like, I hate that I'm taking a break. I wish I had another week to work on shows and get it all ready, and I learned a lesson. I have never taken a 2-month break from Strong Opinion Sports before, and I can't be doing it the day before I leave. It just isn't an effective way to make a show, and I'm feeling really overwhelmed and really stressed about moving, and I don't know. I don't even know if I'll put this out. I really don't. But I'm going to finish recording it just because I'm an hour and a half in. I might as well finish. So my name is Zach Schomler. I will be right back. All right, we are back. First, I want to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. I believe the Dallas Cowboys are going to win the NFC East. I believe they only need to go 10-6 to do it too. The Cowboys they have so much young talent, but the problem is they all got to be paid very, very soon. To me, this is the last year the Cowboys have to make a deep playoff run before they got to split up all their talented young players. Amari Cooper, Jalen Smith, Byron Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott. They have all these players that they can't pay all of them. They'd better go for it now. They're going to go 10-6 in my opinion. They're going to win their division. But the question is, does Ezekiel Elliott come back? How well does Dak Prescott play? Do they make any trades at the trade deadline? If I was the Cowboys, I'd say, look, we have this young group of talented players. We're not going to be able to keep all of them. Let's capitalize on this moment and do everything we can now to go and win a championship. They're going to go 10-6. They're going to win their division, and it's going to be really fun to watch. The Eagles and the Cowboys are going to be neck and neck all season. It's going to be a really close finish to see who wins the division. And in my opinion, there are two big questions the Eagles need to answer if they want to challenge the Cowboys and take the division away from them. One, it's their secondary. They got torched a ton when guys got hurt last year. I would say that the Eagles' least talented part of their team is their group of defensive backs. But the second question for the Eagles is, can Carson Wentz stay healthy? I like the Eagles' offense. They have two good tight ends, Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz. They have good receivers, Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar, DJ Arcega-Whiteside. I like their interior defensive line, Fletcher Cox, one of the best in the NFL. Malik Jackson, the guy they signed from the Jaguars. There's a lot of good players on the Eagles roster. But it's all meaningless if Carson Wentz doesn't stay healthy. He's insanely talented, but talent doesn't mean anything if you're not on the field. I love the backup for the Eagles. I like Josh McCown, but the Eagles would not make the playoffs with Josh McCown as their quarterback. I believe the Eagles are going to go 9-7, but if Carson Wentz can play at a higher level, if he plays to his potential, 9-7 is a really low number, a really low estimation for the Philadelphia Eagles. I love Carson Wentz. Can he stay healthy, and what kind of player are we going to get this fall? That's what I want to see from the Eagles. I believe the New York Giants are going to go 5-11. The Giants are rebuilding. They have a crappy offensive line. They have crappy receivers. They use 7 of their 9 draft picks drafting defenders, though, and that's what I like to see. They used 2 in the first round, 2 first-round draft picks. They drafted Dexter Lawrence, a defensive tackle from Clemson, and DeAndre Baker, a corner from Georgia. I really like the direction that the Giants are headed in. They have a bunch of young defenders. Jabril Peppers, a guy they got, a former first-round pick they brought in from the Browns trade for Odell Beckham Jr. They have Saquon Barkley, a stud who's probably the best running back in the entire NFL. But what I really appreciate about the Giants is the way they're handling their quarterback situation. Daniel Jones isn't ready to play, in my opinion. And he shouldn't play until he is ready. And that's why Eli Manning is so incredibly valuable to the Giants. He's a placeholder for the Giants. He can take a bunch of beatings so that Daniel Jones doesn't have to. Daniel Jones can sit and watch and be allowed time to develop. He can learn from Eli Manning's preparation, his demeanor, his approach, everything Eli Manning does. Now, let's acknowledge Daniel Jones is a far better thrower of the football than Eli Manning. He's got a way better arm. But playing quarterback is about so much more than your arm strength or your ability throwing the ball. I think the Giants are going to go 5-11. It's going to be an ugly rebuilding year. And at some point, Daniel Jones, I'm sure, is going to play. But I hope it's not before he's ready. And I hope that Giants fans understand this year is about investing in the future. This is a year of rebuilding for the Giants. The Giants are not in a position to win games, nor should they really try. They should just worry about development this year. This year is about developing your young players and getting better so that next year and the year after that, you can really make a push at the playoffs and have a better team. This year is about developing your young players, not about trying to win games. I really hope that Giants fans understand that and can have the patience for that. And by the way, Giants fans, man, you better be grateful. At least your team isn't as bad as the Redskins. The Redskins are a dysfunctional mess. Their left tackle won't show up. Colt McCoy got hurt, their quarterback. It's weird and sad. Their day one starter at quarterback is Case Keenum. And the offensive line is an ugly mess. Even with Trent Williams there, they'd be an ugly mess, let alone without him. I just, man, even though this is how bad the Redskins are, how much of a mess they are. Even their running back, Adrian Peterson, who's made over nearly $100 million in the NFL, is somehow broke. There was a story today that released that Adrian Peterson is out of money and owes a bunch of money. And it's like, how do you make $100 million and have nothing? I feel sad for him, by the way. It just makes me feel very sad. The Redskins even brought in a former first-round offensive lineman, Eric Flowers, who was so bad the Giants cut him. I don't know. They brought in a troubled but talented linebacker, Reuben Foster, tore his ACL and LCL. He's out for the season. It goes on and on and on. There's so many bad things that have been going on. Now, there are two positives right now in the Redskins organization. They have Dwayne Haskins. They drafted a quarterback who might be the quarterback of the future. And they drafted Montez Sweat, a defensive end from Mississippi State in the first round, who looks like he might be really, really good. Other than that, there's not a lot to celebrate about. I believe the Redskins are going to go 3-13, not 13-13, 3-13, 3 wins, 13 losses. They're just a weird mess of a roster. They have a couple expensive players, guys like Landon Collins and Josh Norman, who seem like they just kind of go to waste on a roster that's not going anywhere, losing a bunch of games. What's really sad is that it seemed like last year, I think it was last year before Alex Smith got hurt, the Redskins were like 9-2, leading their division. The minute Alex Smith got hurt, they just tanked and fell off a cliff. And it's just really sad. The Redskins, I think, are going to go 3-13 this year. I hope they don't play Dwayne Haskins before he's ready. And they're probably going to have the number 1 overall pick next year. The Redskins are that bad. They are terrible. It's really, really sad. All right. So in the NFC East, I have the Cowboys going 10-6, the Eagles going 9-7, the Giants going 5-11, and the Redskins going 3-13. This in general is how I see the playoffs working out. In the AFC, I see the number 1 seed being the Patriots at 12-4. The Chiefs, the number 2 seed at 12-4 as well. The Colts are the number 3 seed. They will not get a first-round bye. They'll be 11-5. The Browns will be 10-6. They'll win their division. And in the wild card, you'll have the Chargers at 11-5 and the Steelers at 9-7. That's in the AFC. In the NFC, the number 1 seed will be the Saints at 12-4. The number 2 seed will be the Rams, also at 12-4. They'll get first-round byes. The number 3 seed in the NFC will be the Packers. So they'll be they're 11-5. The Dallas Cowboys will be 10-6. They'll win their division. They will not get a first-round bye. They'll play wild card weekend. And the 2 wild card teams in the NFC will be the 5th seed overall seed, the Falcons at 10-6. And with the wild card, you'll have number 6 seed, the Bears at 10-6 as well. I think the Patriots and the Saints are going to play for the Super Bowl. I think the Patriots will win the Super Bowl. And the dark horse Super Bowl team I think is interesting is the Green Bay Packers. If they can make it to the playoffs, they can definitely have Aaron Rodgers is talented enough to upset even a really good team like New Orleans Saints. That's who I would keep your eye on is the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers and how well they play this year. Guys, I'm dead. I'm so tired. I didn't sleep. I'm really just kind of running on fumes. I have a couple things I want to talk about before I go, and I'm going to be gone for good. I'm taking a break. I'm just going away. I'm going very far away. I'm going to play football, and I'm so exhausted. I do want to talk about this. It's one. I want to be very, very clear. I love Baker Mayfield. I really am a big fan of Baker Mayfield. I think there's been rumors that I don't or whatever. Baker Mayfield's one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. He really inspired me to keep playing quarterback when I went back to playing college. And just want that out there before I leave for 2 months. I love Baker Mayfield. I'm rooting for him this year. I think he's an awesome quarterback. I love his attitude. I love his moxie and his spirit. Also, I have a kind of a conspiracy theory that Rob Gronkowski, and this is a popular theory, is going to come back and join the New England Patriots. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen at some point. He's working out in Foxborough. And as a guy who's played football in the past, it's hard to walk away when you still can't have the ability to. When you watch all your friends playing and you're not, oh man, it just eats you alive. And I'm sure that's what's going to happen to Rob Gronkowski this year. Who knows? Like around Thanksgiving, I think he's going to come back and join the team again and get back to doing his thing. I also want to talk about the Andrew Luck injury. I do not think it's a big deal. It just, you can play quarterback with a bum ankle. It's not his throwing shoulder. Andrew Luck's leg is clearly fine. I mean, I've seen videos of him running around. I don't think Andrew Luck's injury is a big deal. I think he's going to play week 1, and they're probably going to lose to the Chargers regardless. But I wouldn't worry too much about Andrew Luck's injury. Now, briefly before I leave, I want to talk about rookie quarterbacks. There's something I do. I love making analogies on the show for 2 reasons. I think it's helpful to people in 2 ways. One, it's helpful advice you can share with people. And it's also, using analogies helps people understand stories a little better. Graduating from college puts you through something that requires a tremendous amount of patience. I've watched my friends go through it recently where when you graduate from college, you have this piece of paper. You're like, I got a degree, now I can get a job. And getting your first job after college takes forever. It requires a bunch of patience. You got to just keep trying and trying. And eventually you get a job that sticks, but it takes forever and it feels hopeless for a long time. And drafting rookie quarterbacks is very similar. You draft a quarterback and teams go, yes, we have our quarterback. Our problems are solved. And they throw the quarterback in too early and it's not ready and no one has any patience. And you're like, well, what the heck? I drafted a quarterback. Why isn't it ready now? Why can't the quarterback, Daniel Jones or Dwayne Haskins or Josh Rosen, whatever it is, why can't they be ready to play week one? It's just not how quarterbacks work. Every once in a while you see someone who graduates college and like before they graduate, they already have a job lined up. I know a girl who got a job in Boise like before she'd even graduated. She already had everything set up and lined up. But that's the exception to the rule. Guys like Matt Ryan are the exception to the rule. It's very rare to see someone who plays week one in the NFL and it's just fantastic. Baker Mayfield even didn't play week one. It wasn't fantastic early on. I just think we need to have more patience for young quarterbacks. I made an analogy last year this time. If I was growing a beard, I wouldn't expect it day 2 to be a giant full beard. It takes time to grow a beard. And in fact, when you grow a beard, there's an ugly in-between phase where it's growing and developing, where it goes from bare face with nothing on it. In about 3 weeks, it might get to a full beard, but that 3 weeks is ugly and gross, and there's like weird peach fuzz on your face, and it's not good. And that's what every young rookie quarterback goes through is that ugly growth period. And I just think people need to have more understanding and a little more patience for young quarterbacks and let them have time to develop rather than forcing them into play so early. I also made a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 things I'm excited for this fall. The number one thing I'm excited for this fall for football season is Pat McAfee broadcasting. If you don't know, Pat McAfee is going to be doing Thursday Night Football broadcast for ESPN. It's going to be really, really fun. And I love him. I love his show. I don't listen to it very often, but I just love his attitude and his effort and his energy. And the way he broadcasts is so nonchalant and so much like a stand-up comedian. And it's exactly what I would want. It's exactly what I want, I guess, as a viewer watching college football. I'm so excited to watch, Thursday Night Football. I'm going to watch every game simply because I love Pat McAfee and I want to watch what he does. Also, I'm really excited this year in college football to watch which quarterbacks emerge as top NFL draft picks. I have no Justin Herbert. Does Jake Fromm emerge and become a great draft pick? I have no idea. And I'm really excited to watch that. I'm also excited to watch the Browns and the Packers. There's this, I think the Browns and the Packers are two teams that are so good and have so much potential. And everyone kind of laughs at them like, the Packers, yeah, Aaron Rodgers. And, the Baker Mayfield and Aaron Rodgers were two people that really got a lot of hate this offseason, but I think have tremendous ability and could be really fantastic quarterbacks this year. I'm just excited to watch them, man. I think that I want to do a film review kind of midway through the year when I come back in November of what's Aaron Rodgers doing? What kind of schemes are they running? What's going on with them? I'm so excited. And I'm also excited to watch Lamar Jackson. I have no idea what the Ravens offense is going to look like. They're going to run the ball a ton. I don't know. It's just going to be fun. And the other thing, I would encourage you to do this fall, enjoy Tom Brady and Drew Brees. We have no idea how much longer they're going to play. This could be the last year Drew Brees ever plays football. And if you get to watch him live, if you get to watch him on TV, whatever it is, just enjoy that moment because you never know how much longer we're going to get to watch Drew Brees play football. And it seems really fun. And the other thing I'm really excited for, obviously, are the young quarterbacks. Kyler Murray, Josh Rosen, Dwayne Haskins, Daniel Jones. I'm curious to watch how they develop and what kind of quarterbacks they become. That's going to be really fun to watch. The Bills and the Jets are going to be fun. This young rivalry in division where two quarterbacks from the same draft class, Sam Darnold and Josh Allen, are kind of coming up together in the same state of New York. And they're two teams at very similar moments in their franchises where they have a young quarterback, they're trying to build and trying to get better. And I think we're going to watch a really fun rivalry develop between the Jets and the Bills this year. And I'm just so excited, man. I don't know. Antonio Brown's going to be fun to watch. He's been really dramatic all offseason, but at the end of it, he's a really talented wide receiver who can do a lot of incredible stuff. And I wonder if he'll make a big impact for the Raiders. I'm excited to watch the Major League Baseball playoffs. I love baseball. People don't understand. Playoff baseball is one of my favorite things in the entire world. And we're going to watch the Astros and the Yankees and the Dodgers. It feels like a 3-team race in Major League Baseball for the World Series, and I can't wait to watch those 3 teams go head-to-head. I'm excited to watch what Ezekiel Elliott does. I have no idea if he's going to hold out for very long. I don't know if he's going to come back. I don't know what's going to happen with the Ezekiel Elliott situation with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm sad I'm going to miss it. And it's something I wish I could cover when it happens because I'm so excited to see what does come to fruition. I'm excited to watch Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma. He transferred from Alabama. I love this guy. I think he's going to play a bunch and do really well. It's going to be fun. I'm excited to watch Joe Flacco with the Ravens or with the Broncos. I have no idea what's going to happen to him, how he's going to play, and what's going on. It feels kind of like he's a placeholder for Drew Lock, but also I think he really puts the Broncos in a position to win games, and I don't know. It's just going to be fun. And the final thing I'm excited for is a TV show called D1, or I guess it's called QB1 Under the Lights. It came out the other day, and I've just been swamped. I haven't been able to watch it. I'm going to watch it while I'm, at night after football practice, and probably react to it in November. This whole process feels so rushed. I'm not ready to leave. I'm excited to play football again. I'm going to miss home. I'm going to miss my girlfriend. I'm going to miss everything. It's been such a interesting summer. I've grown so much as a person, and I hate taking I love my job. I love my job so much, and I just want to keep doing my job. It feels so bittersweet to take a break, to leave for a while. And it's hard for me. It is to step away from Strong Opinion Sports. It's my favorite thing in the world. I have no idea. I've recorded for 2 hours and 15 minutes. I don't know how much of this I'm going to put out because I think a lot of it sucked. And I literally didn't sleep last night. I'm not even kidding. Not even being facetious. I just wrote for the show and tried to finish my NFL predictions. And I just feel like a mess. And I have a headache and it's ugly and it sucks. But I had to try. I love my show. I had to try it. I'm going to answer a couple questions for Ask Zach before I leave. Because I'm going to miss this. I'm going to miss doing Strong Opinion Sports every day. And the break's going to be really hard for me, I think. Because this is my baby. It's my heart and soul. I've done this for 2 years continuously. Haven't ever taken a break. And I'm not ready to say goodbye. So Thomas wrote in and said, Zach, hey, Zach, love the amazing content on your podcast. My question is, can we get a breakdown analysis of your quarterback play after your season? I want to be very clear. No, I'm not doing that. Maybe someday when I graduate and I'm older, but not anytime soon. I don't want to talk about my career. My career is, and my team's film is very private. I don't want to give away our plays and I don't want to break down like what our coverages are and all this stuff. And I don't want to get into it. I like my football career being very private. And you can follow me on Instagram if you want, at Zach Schaumler, if you want to see what that's like. And I do share a couple things there, but I like, anonymity a little bit, in my football career. It's my thing. If people want to follow it, that's great. I also don't want to get in trouble with the NCAA. I don't want to make content about myself. So maybe someday in like 10 years, but I have no interest or no plan to make a quarterback breakdown of myself anytime soon. I'm also not a noteworthy quarterback. I might not even play. Like, people don't understand. I might literally be a backup quarterback. I might literally not play at all. And I don't know. I play because it's fun. I don't play for the content or for anything. I play the game because I enjoy it. Jackson wrote in and said, greetings from Dallas, Zach. Said, I enjoy listening to your podcast while I work out. Recent and older, that's cool. I'm glad people listen to my old podcasts. I'm really proud of them. They're my pride and joy. He said I have 2 questions, one sports related, one non-sports related. He also said, I really love Ask Zach because you're a sensible person who usually gives a good answer, smiley face. I'm not going to answer. Actually, I will. So here are the 2 questions. The first one is this. I'll answer both. He says, you seem close to everyone in your life. I'm 19 in a family of 4, but I look around and don't feel close to anybody, friends or family. I'm not depressed, but I'm not satisfied. How do you bond with ones you love? How would you suggest, or anyone wanting to start building lifelong relationships? Here, I don't know how to perfectly answer this, but I'll kind of put my own spin on it. My friends are amazing people. I've tried hard to pick people who are cooler than me and smarter than me and more capable than me. My best friend Nathan's an engineer. My girlfriend's this incredible person. All my best friends are like these just unbelievable people who I look up to. And I early on, years ago, was like, hey, Nathan's great. Shelby's awesome. And I latched on to my best friends. And I was like, I'm not letting these two people leave my life. I love them so much. And my best friend Eliza's in the military. He's a dentist in the military. I just, first of all, find good people and don't let them leave your life. And then if you want to connect with people on a deeper level, hang out with them. Go on adventures with them. Go spend time with them. I don't know if I have answered your question well, but if you want to bond with people more, invest in them. It's been hard. My little brother and I, my brother is trans. I love my brother Zeke very much, and he's a trans guy who loves English, and I don't. We just don't connect. We have so little in common. I play football, and he was a band nerd growing up, and I've learned that it doesn't really matter if you have interests in common. It's reaching out and spending time, and I've really tried to build a relationship with my brother by just reaching out to him and hanging out with him. My other one died, so I have one left, and I'm doing the very best I can to just make sure he knows he's loved and spend time with him. I'm going to answer the second question. I don't know if that made any sense, but I really like the question and the idea in general. And if you want to build a longer relationship with people, invest in them and spend time with them. That's how you do it. If I was building a team, what I'm going to answer this is that, because the question is, if you're a general manager building a team, how would you do it? It's kind of like Madden. I just would run the ball a lot. Everyone always asks, what kind of offense would you run? I would run the ball a ton. I almost went to Utah because I love the fact that they run the ball. Running the ball is so important. Throwing the ball matters. I play quarterback. I love the air raid system. It'd be fun. But I also understand that having a balance really matters, and being able to run the ball really well also allows you to throw the ball really well. And so if I was a coach or whatever, I would try very hard to run the ball effectively. It's something that really matters, that especially young quarterbacks kind of overlook and don't pay attention enough to. This guy, Ben, says this. He says, hey, Zach, just a quick message to say I love you. I love your show. And damn, am I going to miss it when you're playing through your college football season. But I respect your commitment to your team. Your passion for the show has encouraged me to start blogging about the NFL. And I want to let you know how much of a positive impact your podcast has in my life. Anyway, just a quick question for us, Zach. Who do you think will have the best year, individually speaking, of the 2018 draft class? Thanks, man. Keep up the amazing content. Of the 2018 draft class, I'm going to assume this is 2019. I'm going to answer for the 2019. I think that Kyler Murray, of the rookie quarterbacks this year, is going to have the best draft class. And maybe if you mean the last year's draft class, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield's going to have the best. Baker Mayfield's head and shoulders above all of them. But I think Sam Darnold is poised to have a really good year too. I think Sam Darnold looks far more polished. I did a film analysis of Sam Darnold. I didn't finish it. I ran out of time. Very sad to me. Sam Darnold made a bunch of mistakes last year though, and he just wasn't. He wasn't quite ready to play quarterback, I don't think, in the NFL. He started week 1, which I don't know if he should have done. But he learned, trial by fire, and made a lot of dumb errors, made a lot of mistakes, and threw horrible interceptions. And the question for Sam Darnold this year is, will he learn from all those problems and all those things he did? I think he will, but that's what I want to see from Sam Darnold. Will he learn lessons from the mistakes he made last year? Yeah. Nick wrote in and said, Nick, with the upcoming NFL season coming up soon, fantasy football is starting too. If you plan on playing this year, who is your number 1 overall pick, your number 1 QB? Thanks for taking viewer questions. Additionally, I love how you splice up your podcast into clips. I never know I would have started watching if they were 90 minutes long. I know I never would have started watching if they were 90 minutes long, even though I watch the whole thing nowadays. Keep up the great work. So, Nick, I'm glad I do the breakouts too. That's why I do them. They bring in new viewers, and then hopefully people stay for the whole show. It's encouraging you said that you did. I actually don't play fantasy football. Look, if people like fantasy football, great for them. I don't enjoy fantasy football. It's not my thing. It's not a passion of mine. It has no interest to me at all. It sounds like a lot of work that I don't want to do, and I'm not very social. I'm kind of an introvert who doesn't like people that much. So the thought of dealing with other people and trying to play fantasy football, that sounds like a pain in the butt, and I have no interest in that. But if you enjoy fantasy football, man, good for you. I'm happy for you. I just know how I want to spend my time, and I've never had any interest in fantasy football. It's kind of a problem, actually, because fantasy football people often reach out to me and want me to make content for them or want me to sponsor me and all that stuff. And I don't play fantasy football. It's something I feel kind of weird about. I've always felt kind of weird about that, but it's straight up something I just don't have any interest in at all. Noah wrote in and said, Noah said, outside of sports and your podcast, what other things do you find interesting? I want to talk about this forever. Movies are my favorite thing. Movies, video games, and music are my three. I love stories, just period. But movies are like my favorite. My favorite movie, my two favorite movies of all time. You're gonna laugh at me. Everyone's gonna laugh. It's the most unathletic, jock douche football thing ever to say. I love this movie called La La Land. It's literally a musical. I sing the music all the time. I love this stupid movie. It's got Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, and it's just the coolest story of two people chasing a dream. And then it's honest and real at the end, and it makes me cry every time. I love this movie, La La Land. And then my second favorite movie is Star Trek, 2009 Star Trek with Chris Pine, and it's made by J.J. Abrams. I've watched that movie 3 times in one day, one time. I'm the kind of person that when I find something I like, I just love the heck out of it. Like Reach Lost, or my favorite artist is John Bellion. Man, there are a couple things I'm like, that's my thing, and I love it with everything I have. I also love video games. I never play them anymore. I don't have time. I don't even have time to take care of myself. I feel so overwhelmed all the time with I don't have time for anything. But someday I want to take a vacation and just play like The Witcher 3. Or, I have all these dreams. I have so many video games I bought over the years that I've never touched any of them. Because when I was as a kid, I had a giant list of games. And I wanted to get every game on the list. And I did when I got a job with ESPN. I bought a ton of video games and I have every game on the list, but I never played any of them. And it's really sad to me. Dominic wrote in a couple. So Jane, Max, and Dominic all asked very similar questions. I wanted to acknowledge them. I'm going to read probably Dominic's, but they're all related to the same thing. Dominic says, "Hey, Zach, you're one of my favorite content creators, and I'm so glad I can support you through Patreon. My question is, what is your opinion on the NCAA's rules around players not being able to accept deals and sponsorships from outside companies?" I did a whole podcast about this with a guy who goes to Cal. He's a Division I athlete. He's an expert kind of around the world of should payers be played. It's major. He's getting a master's degree at University of Cal about this. But I don't understand why student athletes can't make sponsorship money. It doesn't make any sense to me. I get don't pay them. They're not employees, whatever. But if a company wants to sponsor a post on your Instagram, they should be allowed to do that, I think, at the very least. And it doesn't make sense to me that they can't. The only thing I can argue is that maybe it's would give people an unfair advantage in recruiting. I honestly have no idea. Very, very just bizarre to me. Jack wrote in and said, and by the way, that the podcast I did with this guy named Andrew Cooper, he came on a podcast. I'm releasing it later, eventually. We talk all about how to pay the players, and it's a better answer there. I probably didn't answer that very well, but yeah, I think they should be paid, period. Well, they should definitely be able to get endorsement money. It makes no sense that they can't. Jack wrote in and said, "Hey, Zach, question for me. Do you think the Patriots or the Chiefs will be better this season, and why?" The Patriots are going to be better this year because they got better. The Chiefs didn't really improve. They kind of stayed the same. They traded out some players and brought in some players. The Patriots flat out just got better all around. And I kind of can't believe how overpowered the Patriots are. It's like, they got Josh Gordon back. They have 2 great receivers. I just am so excited to watch the Patriots offense this year. It's going to be a blast, man. I don't know. I am so excited to watch their offense. Alon, I think it's Alon, Alon, I believe. He writes in a lot. I really appreciate him. He's one of my biggest supporters. He wrote in and said, "I think Justin Herbert will be the next Johnny Manziel. He's a one-read QB. What do you think of him, Zach?" I think you're dead wrong. Justin Herbert, I watched him live last year. I worked for ESPN College Game Day at Washington State University. I was on the sideline for Oregon, Washington State. He's an NFL quarterback, man. Justin Herbert's a really high-level guy. I can't believe he didn't leave last year. He's super accurate. Johnny Manziel didn't have NFL arm strength. He didn't have an NFL ability to throw the football. Justin Herbert works all the way through his reads, gets to a 3rd and 4th progression. He's got great arm strength. He's really accurate. Justin Herbert is not comparable to Johnny Manziel at all. No offense, Alon, but you're kind of really being disrespectful by even bringing that up because they're so far from each other. Not just off the field, but like the way they play football. Justin Herbert's a legitimate quarterback. And Johnny Manziel really wasn't. He was kind of a backyard BS kind of guy. So I think it's kind of an unfair question. Unfair, I don't know. I would not compare him to Johnny Manziel at all. I think Justin Herbert's legitimately a really good quarterback who's going to be a top pick in the NFL draft, and deservedly so. Well, we have one more. I want to do one more. There's so many questions. I just wish I had more time. I just ran out of time. It sucks. It makes me so sad. Yeah. So what we're going to do, I'm going to do one last question from Lawrence. I actually read this question, and it made me cry. I was in bed with my girlfriend, and I read her the question, and I was explaining my answer to her, and it just it got me. It's from Lawrence. Lawrence wrote in and said, said, "Hi, Zach. Lawrence back again for another question. I always think back to when I was a kid and try to pinpoint the moment I truly fell in love with the game of football. Some fall in love as an adult, some fall in love on the field. For me, I played from the ages 8 to 18 years old, but the moment I just remember was falling in love back in 2001. I was 10. It was my beloved New England Patriots versus John Gruden and the Oakland Raiders. The Tuck Rule game, which was the right call. Sorry, Gruden." in parentheses, it says, "But it was a blizzard in Boston that night. I remembered just wondering how anybody could play in such weather. Watching the young, unproven Tom Brady march on the field to get in range for a 45-yard field goal by Adam Vinatieri to win in the snow was what truly got me hooked. So my question is for you, what moment in life was the moment you truly fell in love with the game of football?" There's 3 moments, man, that I and, they all have to do with my little brother. My little brother Zane and I, we played football every day, and I'll get into it in a minute. So first of all, my first image of football with my little brother Zane, who died 3 years ago, was we're in our backyard, and we'd stand on either side of our backyard, and our back to fences facing each other. We're in jeans and full shirts, and it's just muddy and raining. And if you ever watched like a Campbell's commercial where they're playing football in the Campbell's commercials and they're just covered in mud, it was like that. And my brother and I, one of us would hold the football and we'd just run at each other full speed and tackle each other as hard as we could and just get covered in mud. And we do it for hours. And we were like 10 to 12, and we just did that all day, all night, got covered in mud. It was my favorite thing. I loved it. And then we would play catch eventually. And that leads me to my second point, which is, my senior year homecoming game. Actually, it's funny. My girlfriend, my girlfriend right now that I'm dating was actually, she was named homecoming queen at that game. But it was our homecoming game my senior year, and it started pouring rain really, really, really hard. And my brother looked at me, and he goes, "Zach, you're gonna throw a touchdown." And I was like, well, why? What do you mean? Why now? He goes, "Zach, because every day, every time it rained our entire lives, you would force me to go outside and play catch with you. And you would always tell me that we play football in the Pacific Northwest where it rains all the time, and you got to be able to throw the ball in the rain." And he did. My whole life, anytime it would rain, I would force Zane to go outside with me and force Zane to play catch with me, because I wanted to be able to throw in the rain. And that's exactly what happened. And so my brother tells me that. I go in the game, and 2 plays later, I throw a touchdown, a 36-yard touchdown in the pouring rain, like cats and dogs, raining sideways. I threw a touchdown in the rain. And I go to the sideline and I just gave my brother the biggest hug. It was just so fun. I don't know. It was so cool. I don't know. It was awesome. And the third moment is this. For a long time, I fell out of love with the game of football. I really struggled to listen to it and enjoy it. And I dropped out of college and quit football. I was a loser who was mad at football, and I felt rejected, and it didn't deal with all my pain. And I remember one time, when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, over the Broncos, I fell asleep because I didn't care. And for me, it was watching Tom Brady come back from a Super Bowl. He was down 28-3 at halftime, and coming back to win that game was so cool to me. That's the game it reinvigorated my love of football. I actually made a video about it years ago called like the Falcons. The Falcons didn't choke or something. The Falcons didn't choke. I think that's what it's called. But it's about how did the Falcons lose or did the Patriots win? And I made a whole video. It was like 15 minutes. I got like 250,000 views on YouTube. It was my first video ever that really got any acknowledgement on my personal YouTube channel. I deleted it now. You can't even find it. But that whole experience watching Tom Brady win in that moment was just so cool to me. I don't know. I just loved it. I just loved it so much. I guess, I guess this is it. I guess we're done, aren't we? I got to kind of wind down. If you don't know, I'm going away. I'm not making any more content until Thanksgiving. I play college football. I start training camp tomorrow morning. Today's August 18th. Tomorrow is August 20th. August 20th is our report date. And I'm not making any content for my college football season from August 20th until Thanksgiving. I'm going to release a little bit of content. I have some stuff pre-recorded, and it's already ready, scheduled to upload. But I guess I'll release this last, so this will be the last thing you'll see for a long time. I just want to prepare everybody. I don't like leaving my show. It makes me uncomfortable. It makes me really sad. I don't want to walk away from Strong Opinion Sports. I've made this show every day for 2 years, over 2 years now. And it's really hard to take a break, and it's going to be difficult. I think a lot of people send me messages that it's going to stop my growth and it's going to ruin my channel, all the stuff. And to me, I look at it as a short-term gain, short-term pain for a long-term gain. In the 20-year span of Strong Opinion Sports, me playing college football is going to make my show better. And, I could drop out of college now and I could not play college football and just focus on Strong Opinion Sports, but then I would never have the stories and the memories and the examples and all the stuff and all the lessons I'm going to learn from playing college football. And so I think it's very valuable to go play college football, especially as a broadcaster. And so I'm going to take a break from the show for 2 months, and it's a little over 2 months, 2.5 months roughly. But I'll be back at the end of November when Thanksgiving break hits. That's when our season ends. I just want to prepare everybody. I might not be the starting quarterback in my college. I might be a backup. I might never play. I'm comfortable with that. But in case you don't understand, I literally might not play, and I'm very okay with that. I'm going to learn a lot about the game of football. I'm going to have fun, and for me, that's worth it. I'm not going to make any videos while I play football. I just, everyone's like, why don't you make a vlog? I hate those kind of videos. I really think they suck. I think it's very disrespectful to your team to be filming in the locker room before a football game. You should be focused on, especially at quarterback. There's a guy at a different college, I'm not going to say his name, who he plays quarterback, and he's like, are you focused on playing football, or are you just trying to make YouTube videos? I get the sense that he's not focused on football at all, and it's just borderline, it's distracting and borderline disrespectful to his teammates and his program and everything, and I hate that stuff, and I'm not going to do that. Now, many people keep suggesting that I make a backlog of content and release it while I'm gone over the next couple months, and it's not possible. I don't think people understand, I appreciate the thought. I'm glad people want my content, but my show, there's a couple reasons. My show is built around relevance. I always talk about the news and what's going on. That's why I try to get it out as quickly as I possibly can. Not everything. You can go back and watch my Johnny Manziel analysis video, and that'll always still be good. But I don't want to make content. I like making timely content that's related to the news. The other problem is this: I don't have time to make a bunch of content. Like making 3 months of content would just cut into what I'm making now, and I just don't have any time. And it's just not a realistic expectation for my show. The people that want me to make content and release it later, it's hard enough to find time to make the episodes I'm already making. I'm not trying to complain. I'm just trying to explain what's going on in my life. I'm sad. I love my show. I've never taken a break from the show. But I do think I'm doing the right thing. I'm very convicted that I'm doing the right thing by taking a break. And I'm a mess right now. Like I'm moving, and I'm like all this stuff you see, this mic, everything behind me, it's all got to go by tomorrow morning. I got to clean it all up and get going. And I'm kind of stressed about moving, and it's a lot for me. And but I do want to communicate that I'm taking a break from the show, and I'm not going to be making any content for 3 months. And I'll be back in November, and I hope you're still here in November, and I hope you want to hear my opinions. And I'm going to have a lot to say when that time comes, and I'm going to miss doing the show. It's very hard for me. I'm kind of a workaholic, and my family all gives me crap for it. And as much as I'm excited to play football, I'm really not excited to walk away from SOS for any amount of time. And it's going to be hard. It is. Feels like I'm breaking up with a girl or something. I'm going to miss the show. But I'll be back. I will be back in 2 months. But I just want to give you a fair warning. Look, again, I might not play. I literally might be a backup. I might be the 6th-string quarterback in my school. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm just going to show up and have a good attitude and do the very best I can. And I just wanted to communicate to you guys. I love you guys so much. I'm so grateful. If you support me on Patreon and you want to take a break, I'm not going to be making any content for 3 months. If you want to just unsubscribe for 3 months, I don't blame you at all. If you want to give me $1 a month, that would be great. It would pay for my bills. Well, I'm not making any content. That'd be awesome. But hey, I'm not going to be making any content. I won't be able to make any Ask Zachs or anything while I'm gone. So if you support me on Patreon for Ask Zach and are mad you're not getting it, feel free to unsubscribe to me. I won't be mad at you. I'll be back in Thanksgiving, and you can resubscribe if you want. It's so hard. It's so hard to take a break. It's so hard to walk away. I'm excited for football. I love my school. I love the people I'm with. But it's so hard to walk away from Strong Opinion Sports. And so I want to say thank you so much. I want to communicate what's going on. I'm just rambling now. I think it's because I don't want to hit end on the record button. But guys, thank you so much. My name is Zach Schaumler. I really appreciate you. And have a great day. Bye.